Hi, it's Adam Freeman. This is Comic Industry Insiders. I'm going to give a much longer intro for our guest this week, Shawn Hudachko of Comics Elite. But before we get into the conversation, I just wanted to say that about 2 hours into the conversation, like very far into it, Shawn and I got into a little argument. It was political in nature, and we came at it from completely different viewpoints. We thought about taking it out because that's not the kind of show that we have. But at the end, we decided to keep it in because he and I, despite our age and passions, chose to come at this respectfully and to hear each other out and to part as friends, even though I'm not sure that either of us changed the other's mind. During this time where politics are on all of our minds, it's good to know that that's still possible. And I hope that we give a good example of how that can be done. All right, without further ado, Shawn Hudachko. Hi, my name is Adam Freeman. This is Comic Industry Insiders, and it's a show where each week we sit down with some of the people behind the scenes of the comic book industry and try to get to know who they are as people, get to know their past, get to know what informs them, get to know the tips and tricks that you can use for your own business or career in comics. And when you're looking around for pros, it's really hard to find one more impressive than our next guest. This guy, Shawn Hudachko, did I pronounce that right, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure
good. He represents something new in comics, a drive that has always been there, but is rarely seen in someone seemingly so from the outside. Shawn doesn't look like the standard comics nerd. He doesn't look a lot like me and the people like me. Not that he doesn't, I mean, we're both bald, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. We're both elegantly bald. All right. As an outside observer, watching Shawn go from strength to strength, I've always loved that he just seems to let any criticism slide right off his back and get back to work. A retired U.S. Marine, Shawn has built a business that anyone would be proud of. A top sales retail business followed by no less than 3 active publishing concerns. This man bought his own printing press. All right. Yeah. So, Shawn is, in a word, relentless. And I cannot wait to learn more about him and kind of bring him to our audience. Shawn, how you doing, buddy? Where are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I don't know who that. You're here talking about this person, and I'm like, who is this guy? I want to meet this guy too. He sounds.
You're ready to listen to this guy and take notes, right?
Yeah, it's weird when you hear, you get stuck in the grind and you work and you work and you work and you work and you don't know sometimes that, oh man, this thing's pretty cool that's happened. And then other people point it out to you and you're like, whatever, man, because as guys, it's hard to take compliments sometimes. And
sure.
So, but it's kind of keep you going because sometimes, we're not all multimillionaires like some people think we are. We're struggling to pay bills like anybody else.
Absolutely.
We're struggling to pay for employees. It doesn't, the money coming in goes up, but the money going out goes up just as much.
That's right. More money, more problems.
Yeah. So a lot of times having the respect of your peers is sometimes one of the most valuable things that kind of keeps you going. So,
having just gotten back from San Diego, I can tell you that, if you stopped me in San Diego and said you watched the show, I want to say personally, thank you. It was wonderful to hear that. And B, you're absolutely right. It was, it's always good to just be around those people that you come up with, that are doing well and, respect you and respect the work you're doing. I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sometimes keeps you going through the tougher times,
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I want to talk to you about one of the biggest innovations I think you've brought to comics. So I hope we can start there if you don't mind.
Sure, man.
And that is a social media trend that you do every Christmas where you bring out the shirts. How many of those shirts do you have, my friend?
I have lost count of how many Christmas sweaters I have. It's I don't know what happened, man. I went down a wormhole a few years ago of the internet and adding shit to my cart that I probably shouldn't have. And then next thing you know, I'm like, man, I got so many of these, and I could wear one every day, and then people start expecting it, and then once people expect it, now you got to step it up. So
Yeah.
I it's I when I wear one, sometimes they don't fit me anymore because we go through different body fluctuations, right?
Yeah, we do.
How we look. Well, and then, my wife washed them one year. I'm like, babe, you don't need to wash these. I wear them. Some of them I literally put on for the picture, and then I
Yeah.
take them off. Like,
Yeah.
full disclosure here, right? But
Oh, I don't. People don't need to know that. They want to
I know,
believe.
I
They
know.
want to
Well,
believe, Shawn.
sometimes I it gets a little sweaty sometimes. Anyway, she washed some and they shrunk. So,
Yeah.
and some of them you don't know where they're coming from. And you order sometimes they wear a 2X or 3X. You order a 3X, comes in from China, and it fits you like a medium. Or
Yeah.
sometimes you're drowning in it. Anyway, I
Yeah.
probably have well over 100 at this point for 30 days of wearing them. So I need to do a purge. I'm sure I'll donate a bunch of them. Some of them, I don't want to say they're irrelevant, but some of the ones that, I drink and I know things from Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah.
that was really cool a few years ago.
It
Now
was.
people are like, now they're like, oh, that's cool.
It had a minute. It had a minute, but
Yeah.
now it's a little dated. Well, I can tell you what's not dated, and it is one of my favorite pieces of this, and it is like kind of a holiday tradition for me. Is where's Kimberly? Where's Kim?
Where's Kimberly? Yeah, we try to. That's another thing that started. So now she hides in the backgrounds of the pictures. So if you know what we're talking about, feel free to follow me on Facebook. I think I still have follower spots left. I delete people all the time, but it's super fun, man. She tries to hide in the background, and then if you're not following, it's okay to follow my wife on Facebook and Instagram too, because we do the wine tasting.
Oh.
We get the box of wine. We get a beer calendar. We got it from Costco. 3 years in a row, they're the exact same beer. They all taste the same. It's the same. It's like the same brewery with different labels on them. It's ridiculous.
So wait a minute. You do the same 3 years in a row. You've been doing it, and it's always the same beer every day.
Well, we started. So we were super excited. We got the Costco wine advent calendar and the beer calendar. I got the last one from the pallet. They just bought it out. They're like, we got no more left. I was like, babe, I got one. So we're like, we got to go live and drink these every day. So we did. And it was like, these are kind of lame. You know what? Maybe next year's will be better. We got one the next year. These are the same. You know what? Maybe they just had overstock or something. So then a couple of buddies reached out. There's a really cool Lodi's Tap House in Illinois. A good buddy of mine, Jason Artman. He introduced me to that. I get one from there every year. It's fantastic. Now people are saying, there's a whiskey one you should do. And I'm like, you trying to kill me? Like, what's going on here? So I'm going to taste wine, a beer, and a whiskey every night. Like, I got to work tomorrow. But it's a lot of fun, man. And I do it in the sweater, so I keep the sweater on. And me and the wife make fun of each other, and we clown on each other. And, she gets inappropriate very quickly. Her mom gives her shit like, Kimberly, you can't say that. Like, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a blast. I love doing those things.
I don't think I've ever watched these. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna look forward to
4
this
years now. We've been doing those too, so it's a lot of fun.
That is incredible. Well, it does actually put a note on something in that every time I look into what you're doing, you really did retail and publishing wise. You really came up in a sort of a really wonderful hybrid of being online and being in store, right? You started off with that, but you know what? But I don't want to jump too far ahead. Sure. I would love to dig in. I know that to understand you, I feel like we should probably, start with the Marine Corps. But before that, I'd like to start, like, where are you from? Who were your parents? What kind of kid were you?
So I'm from a small town in Illinois called Streeter, Illinois. Love lots of ties there still. My sister still lives there. Love it. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I got 3 younger sisters. 51 years old. Not as old as some people in this screen, but 51 years old. I went to a Catholic school for 8 years. The same school my parents went to, the same school their parents went to. My family was kind of like a big part of raising up this Catholic church. We're Slovak, the Czechoslovakian. That's where Hudachko comes from. Anyway, so I was really a nerdy ass kid, man, going through a Catholic grade school, And then when I went to high school, I played I football, wrestled, did track in high school. Loved all those. I excelled in wrestling. I did really well. One match away from going to state my senior year. It was just, I loved it. Did so good at it. I went to college for a year. I absolutely hated every second of it, to community college. I despised it. I loathed it. I didn't want to be there. I skipped class. I got put on academic probation after my first semester. And then I just dropped out and joined the Marine Corps. A buddy of mine was like, hey, I'm going to talk to the Marine Corps recruiter. I was like, I don't really know hardly anything about the military. I'll go with you. Yeah. 2 weeks later, I was in boot camp. I ate it up. I loved it. 2 weeks. Really? Parents freaked out. Later. I had really high, for being such a crappy student, I credit my Catholic school education because I had really high ASVAB scores. I was like 6 points away from scoring a perfect on the ASVAB. That's the military joining test, right?
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Stands for Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. Not to bore people with military lingo, but anyway. So I qualified for any job, and I said, who are the guys that kick down doors and shoot people? And they're like, that's infantry. And I was like, that's what I want. And they're like, but we need aircraft mechanics. And I was like, that sounds boring to me. I want to be infantry. Mm-hmm. And the recruiter drove 4 hours to my house to talk to my dad, to explain to him why I chose infantry, that it wasn't his fault. So I did 4 years in the infantry, deployed to Somalia, did some other things in 92. Bill Clinton said,
"Wait a minute, hang on. Yeah. I want to make sure the recruiter goes to your dad and says, this just so you know, this was not me. That was please don't come looking for me."
Yeah, we wanted to be an aircraft mechanic. They had a job in motor transport of vehicle mechanics. That sounds like a miserable job to me also. Yeah. There were lots of jobs I qualified for, and I said, I want to be infantry. Like, what's the most badass unit you have? They said, that's infantry. I said, can I change jobs after 4 years? They were like, absolutely you can. And I was like, with your scores, you'll totally be able to. Well, after 4 years, I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in the infantry. I loved it. But it's probably the best thing that happened to me was they forced me to leave the infantry. And I got into communications maintenance. So I fixed switchboards and that kind of stuff. And then fiber optic technology was just coming up in the Marine Corps. And I was kind of one of the first guys to get certified to install fiber optic networks in the infrastructure in the buildings. Got a couple medals for saving the Marine Corps a lot of money because I trained other Marines to do it. It was really kind of cool. Yeah. And then I got bored again. I really wanted to be a drill instructor. I wanted to be one of those guys that were like, you better do this. I wanted to be so bad. I wanted to be a drill instructor. And they wouldn't let me go. They said, your job is too important. It's called a critical MOS. Like, you cannot leave. Your job is too important. Well, recruiting came around. And I was like, I don't want to be a recruiter. Those guys are a bunch of wusses. I was like that guy. Like, those guys are, I don't want to say the word, but, I got guys are a bunch of wusses. And I was like, hey, a couple buddies pulled me aside. They're like, dude, recruiting is awesome, bro. Like, they give you your own car. You get assigned 3 high schools. You get to walk around, talk about how awesome the Marine Corps is in your uniform. As long as you make your mission, everybody leaves you alone. You get married towards part. I was like, maybe this isn't so bad. So I went on recruiting duty. They took me. I excelled in recruiting duty. Within my first year, I was in charge of my own office. And then I finished my last 12 years as a career recruiter, which really kind of set me up for success in the comic universe because I was at the end of my Marine Corps time, I was a master sales trainer. Right. They transferred me from California up to Mountain View, California, which is San Francisco, right where Google is. They call it Google View because that's the Google campus. And I was giving, motivational talks and doing some corporate consulting on the side with, Google, Facebook, McAfee. I never got to do Apple. I really wanted to try to get Apple, but I couldn't get in and do some stuff with Apple. Just trying to check some wickets, like set myself up to be able to retire and be able to say, look at all this great stuff that I did. But at the same time, I started selling comic books. Not to ramble here, but a divorce led me to selling my collection. So
that happens. I had a divorce that led me to getting rid of my comic shop. So you did okay.
Okay, yeah. So you understand. I'm sure some guys here can relate that's listening, but very wicked divorce. She left me with a ton of debt. She stopped paying bills. I did not want to file for bankruptcy because I wanted to own a business someday. I started selling stuff on eBay, and it was doing pretty well. I started with some Star Wars Legos, some other stuff that I had. A buddy of mine that I knew on eBay, we kind of were just talking through eBay. he said, hey man, you should try, Facebook just started groups, because this is back when Facebook was still kind of innovating things, right?
Yeah.
And groups were brand new. And so there all these collection groups popped up. I joined a group called Nick's Comic Collectibles. And I started selling stuff on Nick's, and I was crushing it, bro. Like I was making $400 a week on the side selling stuff from just claim posts on Facebook.
Right.
And it kept growing and growing and growing. Next thing you know, I hired a girl, our first employee. I hired her to come over and answer messages and help me package and ship stuff out of my house. You know, I knew what I was doing. I literally paid her cash every week for the hours she worked, you know. And then I go to conventions and I make a post like, look at all this cool stuff I got, just kind of showing off a little bit. And people message me, oh my God, can you give me one of those? What's your next convention you're going to? Can you give me one of those too? I quickly decided I need to upcharge for this stuff, because what's my time worth, right? Like I'm carrying all this crap for you. I'm going to ship it to you. You spend all day messaging me. Like I should get paid for this a little bit. So very quickly after that, I'm hiring somebody to follow me around conventions and help me out at cons. And I met CBCS, and they were really good to me and made me a witness, and I was able to get in with them, and I started establishing relationships with artists. Then Facebook Live started, and that's where things went absolutely bananas. Absolutely bananas. So when Facebook Live started, before that, it's an arduous process. I go to this guy's booth, or girl, whoever, I take pictures of their stuff. I put it on my post. Facebook back then, you couldn't reply to a comment. You would just put a picture up, and it was just a massive amount of comments. Then they innovated where you could reply to a comment. Well, I was like, I'll do a reply auction. So I would put a picture up, and people would reply underneath that picture how much they wanted to pay for that, or claim, or bid, or whatever that was. When Facebook Live started, I was like, I'm not taking all these pictures. I'll just go live from your booth and record things, and I'll have somebody next to me and be like, okay, John wants this, Johnny wants that, Susie wants this, Billy wants this. And they're just furiously making a list of what people want. And I'll never forget, man, Bill McKay, great dude. It was Fan Expo Philly, I believe. He's next to Ryan Kincaid, super good friend of mine. Me and him totally came up in the industry together doing stuff. I had so many Kincaid variants. Anyway, hey man, can I go live at your booth? And he's like, I don't know what that means. Like, go live. What are you talking about? And Ryan's like, trust me, just do it. I went live. Next thing you know, I'm like, I need one of those, two of those. And he's kind of like, what's happening? And then I gave him his total, and I was like, how much is all this stuff going to be? And he's like, it's like $5,000. And I was like, can you cut me a break? And he's like, how about $4,000? I was like, I'll take it, man. Like, cause at the time we weren't upcharging anything.
Right.
And Bill later on, he's like, you made my whole show. Like, this was going to be a bomb. And the last day you swooped in and saved my whole show. Like, what are you doing? This is insane. And I get that reply from so many people.
So wait a minute.
Right?
I just want to put a pause here.
Sure.
Because I think that's really, so you were taking a camera, you would go live from the convention room floor. When was this? This is like 20.
On my phone. I would do it on my, if you go live right from the app on my phone. And it was probably, I retired in what year is this? 24. I retired in 2016. So probably 2014, 2015-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. I was one of the first guys. Me and Jesse James have a little debate about who's the first one. He says I got him by like a day or a week or something, but I was, I mean, again, I'm not bragging or anything at all. It's not about clout for me, but I was like the first one to kind of innovate some of the stuff. I was the first person to go live. And then,
so you're just wandering around this guy's booth. This guy has a bunch of different stuff, and you're wandering around the booth with the camera on your phone. Just go on live stream, and then people are saying, I'll take that, I'll take that, I'll take that.
Yeah, they're commenting like, give me, and then you have to learn little tricks. Like before I would go live, because I'm looking through his print, and let's say he has 4 Superman prints.
Yeah.
I'd be like, we got Superman, we got another Superman, here's another Superman. They'd be like, I want the Superman print. And I'm like, which one? I just showed you 5 of them. So you have to do stuff like before I go live at their booth. Yeah. And really, it's by booth, I most of me just an artist table. I'm standing in front of their table.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just showing them all their stuff, right? And then I would go through their print binder. Okay, I need to label all these A, B, C, D, E. Because people will message me after the show. Hey man, do you still have that Superman print? bro, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, I'm not going to rewatch this video to find your Superman print. Can you send me a screen? Then they would send me a screenshot. You got this
Yeah,
one? I already left his booth. I'm sorry. Oh, damn it. So you just realize there's so much more opportunity there to do this kind of stuff.
right.
So then I started like, hey, here's what I need. Okay, let me get one more of everything on top of this so I can take it home and sell it I can go live from my house and sell the stuff when I get back after the show.
Yeah,
So then I started, becoming more of the flipper thing. People talk about, I hear this term not so much anymore. Oh, you're just a comic book flipper. Isn't that what we all are? Like, a store buys from Diamond to sell it for more money in their store. You're flipping that, but it's the same thing. Like, Walmart is capitalism is about flipping stuff for a profit. So, anyway,
yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that honestly, I think that where that criticism comes, I had another retailer on who was discussing this. Go back and watch the Ed Greenberg episode if you'd like, where he was talking about some of the challenges that they had, and I was pushing back. I was like, "These are customers. Why would you stigmatize them?" And I think if I can sum up his response was that I can sell this book to somebody who I know is going to be here next week for the next issue, or I can sell it to this guy who's just going to take it, and he may come back next week for whatever's hot next week, but he's not going to buy this issue. I cannot count on this guy as much as I can count on the first guy.
Yeah.
I think that's really what they would say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No,
yeah.
You're right. I have that debate constantly with people because I'm in some of the same retailer groups, and
Yeah.
not to get down a rabbit hole about some retailers, but some of these guys that are old, again, I've only been doing this for about 10 years. Some of these guys have done this their entire life. Their entire life. They started working at a comic store when they were 17. They now own that store or multiple stores. And I mean, good for them, man. Like, those guys are the backbone of the industry that made us what we are today.
Amen.
In no way, shape, or form will I ever discredit what they do. What I will say is you have to change with the times or you're going to die on the vine. You can't be a dinosaur that goes extinct. Like, you have to do new stuff. I got up at a Comics Pro meeting and I told these guys one of the very last things. They must have anything they want to say. And I was like, I'm the new guy here, but I got a funny story about Comics Pro too one time. Anyway.
Okay.
I said, hey, you guys got to get on Instagram. You got to get on Facebook because there's guys out there that are doing it and they're running circles around you and they're crushing you. Like, you can't just sit in your store and wait for people to come to you. Yeah. Like, I see posts sometimes in these groups and they're like, it's a really slow Saturday. Anybody's having a slow Saturday? And I'm like, instead of posting about the slow Saturday and complaining about it, why don't you post something for sale on your Facebook page? Oh, you don't have a Facebook page. How about making a Facebook page? Like, how's your website doing? Well, I don't have a website. Make a website. I didn't know how to make websites either. I learned Shopify. I taught myself how to do Shopify. It's not complex. You don't know how to do something? Guess what? There's this magical thing called the internet, and anything you want to know is out there. Just have to have the discipline to do it. Anyway. So, it's some of these guys, they don't get that. They don't understand that. So I'm the new guy on the block. I'm going live at these conventions, going live and doing live sales. I outgrew my house. I retired from the Marine Corps, right. And I took a job teaching ROTC for a year at a high school because I wasn't prepared to fully jump into comics full time. Plus, I was drowning in debt from my divorce still, and right. I had massive bills to be able to pay. Took a job at the high school, and I was doing stuff.
Also, you really wanted your that drill sergeant.
I did. I wanted to tell those damn kids, you're gonna listen to me. Knife hand them. I love that your teachers. One of my students actually went and joined the Navy. Now he works for me. He's one of my main managers. But anyway, so I'm at the high school, and I was doing stuff like I would work until late Friday, because I have to take the drill team out, the color guard, to do the football game Friday night. They're finally done. The kids go home. The weapons are put away. The flags are secure. I jump in my car, drive to New York for New York Comic Con, drive through the night, get there Saturday morning, scramble around, buy a bunch of stuff, go live, spend 5 figures during the day, constantly running back and forth to my car to drop stuff off, or the one Airbnb that I found, go live, exhausted to try to make that money I just spent back, send invoices that night because I need money to be able to drive back Sunday, and then go be at work Monday, bright-eyed bushy tail at 6 a.m. After I did that, and I was like, I just made probably $15,000 in 72 hours driving to New York, flipping books at New York Comic Con, and driving back. And we're all about a 50% margin, so I really made about probably $7,500, right? Plus gas, Airbnb. Let's call it $5,000. I made $5,000 in that weekend. Was more than I made that's about what I made in a month at the high school, plus my retirement pay. Like, so I finally was like, what am I doing? Like, I need to pick one or the other. It's not fair to the kids that I'm only half here. It's not fair to my comic business. I'm half there. So I finally made the leap. I said, I just needed to go full time into comics. And that's when I didn't even want to open a brick and mortar. I just needed a warehouse to keep all my stuff in.
Yeah.
I just needed a warehouse because I lost a girlfriend over this. I had a 4-year girlfriend. She moved with me from California to Indiana. And, I had comics on the stove, all over the kitchen. She couldn't cook. She would come home, and it was just as soon as you walked through the door, there wasn't a living room. It was a comic book warehouse everywhere.
I'm gonna go put a pizza in the oven. No, babe, I got my Silver Age books in there. You can't go in the oven.
That's the oven. That's the climate controlled. But I mean, I don't blame her. But I also tried to tell her, look, if you would help me with this business, it can really take care of us. It could blow up. If you believed in me and my vision, we could crush it. She said, nope. Within 30 days, she took the dogs, moved away, went back home, basically screw you, I'm out. I was like, man, that was cold. That hurt, right? Wow. I was like, man, this is insane. So I was able to dig even more into the business, even more. That's when I opened my Diamond account. I started ordering FOC books, and I started the infamous New Comic Tuesday. Right? I know it's Wednesday, but it used to be Wednesday. It is going back to Wednesday. But we did a New Comic Tuesday. And I got to tell you, I had retailers so pissed at me. I would get my Diamond order in.
I'm sure.
COD, by the way, which is another nightmare story. Imagine trying to get money orders for $12,000 a week. Those are my orders were huge. $12,000 in money orders. Where do you go to get that at? I'm going to Walmart to get $3,000 max. I'm going to the post office. I'm going to Kroger to get another $3,000 max, and paying with this card, swipe with that card, pay with this card. I got flagged by the IRS several times for being a money launderer. Yeah, because that's what they would do. The money order, that's a very money laundry thing to do, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, I'm just a dude trying to make it here, like, because they wouldn't take checks. It had to be COD, right? Or money orders. Anyway, so I get the books in. If I was lucky, Friday. Most time they came in Monday. Drop everything, unpackage all the books, count damages, do your accounting, lay the books out to go live Tuesday. Sometimes if the Diamond order was delayed, I get it late Tuesday afternoon. Talk about a scramble. Yeah. Now to get all the books laid out in order to do New Comic Tuesday. And I go live and I point the books at the camera and I would say, okay, we're doing Wolverine next. And I had 3 or 4 people that would write stickies and they would say, got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay, Wolverine, who wants one? Comments. Billy Jones, got it. Susie Sue, got it. Jimmy Jim. And I take the book and I move it over to them. They put a sticky on it. Then I got somebody else on the side that's taking those books and making a spreadsheet. Wolverine number 1, Billy Jones, $4. Wolverine number 1, Susie Sue, $4. Making the spreadsheet. Talk about it in like it was huge operation. We still do it. It's a little different, but we still do it. We've consistently done New Comic Tuesday live on Facebook, on Comics Elite's Facebook page for over 6 years now. Never missed a day. Every single Tuesday we do it.
So were you shipping them out that day?
Yes.
Were people picking them up on Tuesday?
We did have some locals that would come in and pick them up. But for the most part, we would then invoice people. Mm-hmm. So the spreadsheet's done. Then somebody invoices them. Then somebody has to track who paid their invoice. Yeah. Right. Then once they pay their invoice, we have to double check the order because you can imagine all those books flying around. It's easy to miss something. So to mitigate the errors, at one point we had, I think, a 15% error rate, which is ridiculous. It almost buried me. The error rate. I finally had to fire some people within, it took about a year and a half. And my wife kind of saved that whole thing also. That's another kind of a story. But, you know, I couldn't afford to pay people $18 an hour. So I'm paying people, you know, $10 an hour plus store credit. But you get what you pay for. And I had some abysmal employees, man, just terrible. The stories I have, bro, I should write a book. I caught one guy was having sex with another employee in my house. It was ridiculous. And then they all had passwords to all my stuff. He stole some money out of my PayPal account and then locked it down. The stories I have are insane. I caught a manager that was forging documents and stealing money from me. The stories I have are insane. Everybody that owns a small business has the same kind of stories, but
well, of course,
the
right.
stuff
I can do a few of those.
Yeah,
but I do want to go back. So you were shipping these things out. Some locals will pick them up. Now, and you said you were pissing off some local retailers, and arguably you were breaking a street date, right?
Well, technically though, bro, here was my thing.
Okay,
I would say, okay, Disco Comic Book Warehouse, Midtown Comics, they can pre-sell comics all day.
Sure.
They do it all day. What I did was no different because nothing left the store until Wednesday.
Okay, that's what. I'm asking.
Nobody would come pick them up on Tuesday. I had a very, very strict rule about that because Diamond still had those mystery shoppers. Remember those guys?
Oh yeah, I remember those guys.
Diamond still had mystery shoppers. You know, so I never knew when some dude was going to walk in. They don't have TVs on their wall. Like, screw you, man. Like, you know, screw you for judging me. You know, like.
But all right. So I do have to ask, and anytime that this kind of comes up, I am going to do my best to be the voice of those guys in the room, because I know that there is a retailer that I'm very close to is probably going to watch this and be irritated that I'm giving you this spotlight, right? Because it is, I mean, you have ruffled some feathers along the way.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
But you know what my thing was, I'm not breaking any rules at all. I didn't open up the interiors of the comics. I didn't spoil anything that happened on the inside. Right. If it was a secret variant in a black bag, I kept it in the black bag.
Right.
I didn't show any more than the previews catalog showed, and I showed nothing more than any of these guys that did pre-sales on their website showed. I did the same thing. The only difference was I showed the comic physically. That was it. There was no difference. I wasn't breaking street dates. I wasn't selling anything else. There was nothing I did different. There was no rule that I broke. And I got to tell you, man, these guys were so mad at me. I would see the post. So they didn't even want to let me into some of the groups. I was like, they're like, you don't have a brick and mortar? I'm like, what is this? Do you have a sign on your? Yeah, I have a giant sign. I paid a crap ton of money for it, and it keeps blowing off. Like, yeah, I have a sign. I'll show you. Like, I have a cash register. I have a point of sale system. What else do you want to see? I have racks. Like, this is a store, you know.
And I'd heard that criticism. But what's interesting to me is you found a model that I think was really ahead of its time. I mean, you kind of backed into it in order to do what you were doing. But I've since seen, you know, I can think of 2 retailers in California specifically who have had to step back from having typical brick and mortar retail and moving into a warehouse. Another one in Florida, I think I'm on the top of my head. I'm sure there are many, many more that I don't know of.
Yeah.
That are essentially saying, look, the rents have gone to a place where I can no longer do this.
Yeah.
So they just step back to stop paying that rent, you know?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's, you know, we say that, but I just signed a lease on my 4th building. You know, and it's not, and there's only one of them is a brick and mortar.
Your model is working. That's just it. Your model is working, right?
Yeah.
That's the key. And they had to go backwards to find that model backwards in their minds, whereas you essentially found it and have found your place.
And it's something that's very difficult to understand. So, you know, I'm going to preface this by saying this. I love going to the Comics Pro meetings. I'm a member of Comics Pro. I love those guys over there. I think what they do for the industry is much, much, much needed. 100% it's much needed. That group is so cliquey sometimes, right?
Sure.
Again, I'm the new kid on the block, man. Hey, I just got here. I've been here for 10 minutes compared to most of these guys. When I go to some of these shows and you know, like the round tables, you know, they used to do the round tables. And I love the roundtables. I love meeting the new people, hearing their pitch, hearing what they got to do. Those are fantastic. The training they do. This guy's gonna talk about leading your employees. Part of me is just like, because I sit in some of those and I'm like, how did they pick this guy? What's his credibility? This class is absolutely absurd. Like,
Sure.
I have a Marine that's been in the Marine Corps for 15 minutes can teach this class better than some people. And I understand it's a courtesy class and they're doing stuff like that, but just some of those guys, the old school guys, they come from a mindset of there's one way to do business, right?
Yeah.
And anything new to them is scary, right? The internet is scary. Social media used to be terrifying to them. Websites, if you had a website, you weren't even a real store. If you had a store with a website, they got a website. Their numbers don't count. Like their still numbers are, they got a website. Well, you should have a website too. So, sometimes it's hard to explain to those guys what I do, right? So some of these guys may be like, we just opened up our 4th location. Bro, I applaud you. Good for you. I'm so happy for you. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
I just signed a lease on my 4th building. I tend to only have one store. I have two diamond accounts because one's for my live sales and one's for the brick and mortar, 2 lunar accounts too. Mm-hmm. But I'm about to open up another 2 probably. And I have 2 publishing companies. I own a printing company now where we print our own comics. I have 6 different live streaming channels. I have Comics Elite Live, my own personal one for Shawn's Comics, Merck Publishing. These are all on Whatnot. Then we have Comics Elite on Facebook is number 5. We have a Whatnot channel called Artist Spotlight and Cosplay Corner. We have those 2 are still in development. So there's 5 actively used accounts, and we have 2 that are in development. And I just partnered up with another guy. I bought part of his business. I won't say who he is. That's technically number 6. There's several other streamers. If you watch their stream, 50% of their product is my product that I have a partner agreement worked out with them where they sell my stuff and then send me a percentage of what they make. So my hand's in so many different Tidal Wave Comic Publishing. That entire website is ran by me. Darren, that's a guy you need to interview. Darren, that guy has got some stories.
I know. Actually, he's already on the schedule.
Oh man,
and it's in my quest to really truly understand those people who make the comic system work. I want to make sure I talk to everybody.
Yeah,
somebody who represents everything. And I think Darren's a really interesting. He's had an interesting model that he's made work for a very long time. But he's also really controversial. His business and the way he runs it, or the way he ran it, I don't know how that's landing now. But I do know that back when I first started getting involved with him, it was very controversial.
And really, he's a perfect example of when I first talked to him, he had no clue about this side of the industry.
Yeah.
And when I say this side of the industry, there's the FOC weekly book people, right?
Yeah.
You can go into their store. You can open up a pull box. You can get your subscription books in. You can go on their website and open up a subscription. There's those guys. Then there's your kind of Marvel and DC variant guys. The big time collectibles, the Comics Elites, the Unknown Comics, the KRS Comics, those guys, right? That do the Marvel and DC exclusives. Then that industry has drastically changed over the years.
Yeah.
No store does their own variant anymore. They're all split by 5 or 6 different variants. 5 or 6 different stores split them. So, and we even stopped putting logos on the back of the books because it's all ego. Nobody cares who exclusive. That was a total ego industry when it first came up. Anyway, it's funny looking back on it now, right? That's my exclusive. Like nobody cares, man. Like nobody cares. Anyway, and then you have your guys that do some of the more indie stuff. And it was really kind of spearheaded by Murat Michaels with the Do You Poo stuff and the Naughty and Nice, those niche, hyper limited, super collectible books really found a home with him. And I worked with Murat very closely for many years, myself and a few other guys. And there's many artists that got a huge start from working with Murat. They still work with Murat very closely. I mean, he put some of these guys on the map not to say he made Ebass and Mike DeBalfo, but some of the best eBass covers ever done have been on. Now, some people, what's an eBass? Like some people don't even know who I'm talking about. And these,
Oh, I know what you're talking
probably,
about. I worked at Top Cow back when,
yeah,
just before I worked with Darren, I worked at Top Cow
there you go.
yeah, I
You
knew
know Eric
Ebass
very
back
well then.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would
Yeah.
show up at the office. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's those guys, I mean, Don McTagg came up with in that world too. And then Zenoscope helped a lot of these guys. So,
Yeah.
Zenoscope was probably one of the first biggest, girly book publishers, I guess, whatever you want to call them. They were kind of the first ones, and then other people took their model. And honestly, I think Zenoscope's getting left in the dirt now too, like because they're not adapting or changing or adopting to the times. Like,
I hear
so,
they're doing okay. I hear they're doing all
I'm
right,
sure
but
they're doing okay. Oh yeah, I'm sure they are. Ralph and those guys are Jason. They're awesome. They're good. Jason's a good friend of mine. I never say he's done so much for me over the years. I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for some of these guys. Murat Michaels, Jason from Zenoscope, so many mentors I've had that have just, really helped along the way. But, anyway, we're talking about some of these. So think about the auto industry, right? You have the EV car industry, the Tesla world, right? Let's say Tesla is a much different manufacturer than GM, right? Completely different, totally different thing, different set of values, different way they do business, different everything. They both make cars, but they're completely different, right? Yeah. Go buy a truck from Tesla, buy a truck from GM, you're going to get a completely different product, right? It's kind of the same thing in the comic industry. And, it's the GM may not understand what Tesla does. They think it's crazy. It's dumb. They'll never be able to be Tesla because they're GM.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll never be able to be Midtown Comics. I don't want to be Midtown Comics, and Tesla doesn't want to be GM.
Midtown Comics has struggled. I mean, I don't think they ever really found their way with exclusive covers. I don't say they struggled. I think but you can see they don't do a ton of them. It does slow down. So
yeah, it's slowed down for a lot of people. So, it's just the market it's constantly changing. And what I like about people like me and these other guys that do that kind of stuff is we're positioned to be able to pivot on a dime. Like we can change and shift depending which way the wind blows with the industry, because we're small enough to be able to pivot. I think I have 37 employees altogether between the different businesses, which I don't know how many Midtown has or something, but
yeah,
I'm sure they have a lot more than that. Look, Marvel has thousands of employees. Like I don't have a sales manager; it's me. So I just hired an assistant to help out again because my assistants keep getting promoted into being managers, and now they're in profit share relationships and all this other stuff. So it's a different kind of industry. It really is. It's a different.
Well, so tell me about that industry. How do exclusives work? Why do they work? Like, who is that market that you're selling to?
So it all boils down to the premise of what makes something collectible. Now, and I've analyzed the crap out of this and have many, many debates with people. Ultimately, it's collectible if somebody wants it. That's what it is. Who wants this bottle? If nobody wants it, it's trash. If 1,000 people want it, it's valuable. Right?
Can I tell you, like on my right before we did this, I walked with my son over to the bodega, and he just wanted a snack, and I wanted to get out of the house for a minute. So I took him, and he found a Prime bottle that he didn't have, and it's just a drink bottle. Yeah. It's just it. It's got an exclusive cover because it says WWF on it, but he doesn't have that one yet.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, hey, we used to collect the Coke cans with Star Wars on it when Phantom Menace came out,
right.
It's trash. Who cares about those anymore? Nobody. But so in this industry, in my opinion, the number one thing that makes something collectible is how many are out there. So something has to be limited, right? So this is the world according to Shawn, right?
Okay.
So something has to be limited.
Sure.
Everything that we do is limited. Right, even starting with the biggest variants we do are Marvel and DC stuff. Everyone knows the print runs by now. It's 3,000 trade dress for Marvel. Same with, I don't even see DC doing variants anymore. I don't know if it's that selling that bad, but it's 3,000 for Marvel trade dress, 1,000 virgins. Right, you can't buy the virgin unless you buy the trade dress.
Right.
Is 3,000 small enough of a print run to make something collectible? The answer is, well, it also depends on what's the book. Is it a
Right.
key? Is it a
Depends.
key issue? What's on the inside? Who drew it? Is it desirable? Is it something cool? Who's the cover artist? If I drew a cover, nobody would want it because it's terrible. If Gabriel Delato does a cover, more people are going to want it because he's one of the more popular artists in the world, right? Like, so it just depends on all these factors factor into, and every retailer scrambling to get the perfect storm. The perfect storm. They want the hot artist on a hot book and then tied into an event like a con exclusive or a holiday, or, you know, let's capitalize on patriotism and put Venom in an American flag or something. Like, whatever will make sales. Every
Sure.
retailer scrambling for that perfect storm to get that perfect sellout. And we're always pushing with Marvel and DC. That's what started me, what made me want to start my own business, by the way, because I got so tired of being told no by Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
DC Comics literally told me that so we're not allowed to talk to the artist. We all talk to the artist, right?
Yeah.
DC literally said the girl had to be made less pretty. We're doing a Harley Quinn variant, and they literally, the feedback they gave the artist was, number one, make her chest smaller. Number two, she's too pretty. And we weren't drawing like a female Killer Croc. It was like Harley Quinn or Catwoman or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
how can she be too pretty? Have you seen a Warren Lowe cover? Like, he draws women absolutely beautiful on these covers, you know? Anyway, that was kind of the straw that like proverbially broke the camel's back, where I was like, I'm just make my own comics and I can put whatever I want on the covers. Nobody can tell me no, right? The only thing that can tell me no is the customer by not buying it, right? That's the only thing that'll affect me. So it starts with that. And then to make something collectible, if I have my own property and I hire the artist to draw the cover and I determine the print run, it's all up to me. I can make those decisions. I can make something limited to 10 if I wanted to. That'd be stupid because I'd have to sell them for $3,000 each to make my money back on the investment. But you can make things limited. You can put COAs with them. So now you're taking a comic book, you know, here's a Batman second print, something. This is the first appearance of the Robin from the whatever universe, whatever. It's a 1-in-25 ratio variant, right?
Okay.
What else can I do to this book to make it desirable? I could put it in a Mylar. I could put it in a top loader. I could take it to the artist and have him sign it. I could take it to the artist and have him remark it. Just like anything else, what can we do to this? This comic is a product. What else can I do to it to make it more desirable, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of my mentality when it comes to comic books is I want to offer people, collectors, something that is truly collectible, right? We've changed our back covers. If I have one available, I would show it to you. I think I might, I don't know, I'll find one, but our back covers now have every variant of that cover. So if there's a trade dress and a virgin and a different background and maybe a nice version and maybe a naughty version or a risque version, all those listed on the back cover with the print run of each cover on it. So if you buy a collection 5 years from now and it just so happens to have one of my books in it, you'll be able to look at that back cover and see the print run and all the images in it. And I like that idea because Nick Perucci does that at Dynamite. In the back of his Vampirella books or Red Sonja books, he puts all the covers in there, right? And he puts 1-in-10, 1-in-15, all the ratio variants. I mean, he does 1,000 covers of every Vampirella, so he kind of has to, right?
Sure.
I just took it one step further and put it on the back cover. That way, if a book's graded, you can still see it on the back cover, right? You don't have to open it up to look at it. And I put the exact print number, how many were printed on there. So,
oh wow, okay.
That's what
I try. You don't think that doesn't feel like it's overexposed? Like you're not communicating to the customer that there's just too many of these out there.
Well, so now that boils down to someone's individual opinion, right? So, let's just say most of my Shikari covers, the trade dressers are limited to about 450, right? That's still less than a minimum of a Vampirella exclusive is 500. Right. If you're dealing with these other properties like a Thundercats or something, it's about 1,000 copies you have to do. Sometimes it's 1,500 copies. Marvel is 3,000. If I limit a book to 450 and then you got to price it accordingly. So it's so weird. A book that I will make 450 of, I'll sell it for $15. But a Marvel exclusive is typically priced at $15, and there's 3,000 of them. Well, that may be more desirable because it's a very popular comic,
Sure.
Spider-Man, that we grew up with watching as a kid. No one's heard of Catfight, my property that I made. That doesn't get anybody excited to hear what's going to happen with Catfight this week and the whatever. It's just pretty girls on covers, basically, for the most part, right? With some of the best artists in the world, I think. But it all boils down to what somebody deems as desirable and collectible. And I feel like over trial and error over the years, I've really kind of managed to draw to me, into my business, people that like the kind of products that I'm making. They're still buying them. They're still buying those products. And I listen to their feedback. I have a Patreon. It's called Shawn's Comics. And I post in there. I ask for suggestions, and there's free membership all the way up to, I think, $120 a month. And everybody, I listen to all their feedback. I want to know. I literally want to know, what do you guys want to see? Because I'm only one person. I can only see this much of the world at a time, or maybe this much of the world at a time, right?
Sure.
I can't see the world through everybody else's lens. So, give me your opinions. And of course, you got to take them with a grain of salt. But, I want to know what people want to see.
How many revenue streams do you have?
Several.
Your bookkeeping must be a challenge.
I have my accountant's coming. She comes in once. I talk to her all the time. She comes in once a month. So I have I have my own personal Patreon that a couple employees also help me run, because that grew very quickly.
Yeah.
They get a bonus if it hits a certain amount. They get a commission from that. I have my own personal whatnot stream. I have a streamer that does a lot of that. He also gets a pretty big commission if he hits certain numbers on there. I have a website for Comics Elite, and then the brick and mortar's Facebook live sale, the brick and mortar's whatnot channel. Merc has a website. Merc has a whatnot account. Black Ops has a website. Also, Tidal Wave Publishing has a website. That's 10. I'm sure I could think of a couple more if I needed to, but
all right, that's plenty. Yeah.
Well, but a lot of these, they're their own business. So
yeah,
for example, the brick and mortar store, the whatnot channel, and the Facebook channel, it's its own LLC. They have their own bank accounts. They pay their own payroll. The manager's in charge of all of that. She has a spreadsheet where I can see every spreadsheet. She manages all of that, and I don't give anybody a partnership, but most of my high-level managers are like a profit share.
Like a revenue share.
Yeah, right? Revenue share. Anything over a certain amount that's in that bank account at the end of the month, they get a pretty large percentage of that. So the potential's up to them. They'll have hiring and firing capabilities. They're on salary. But I drive those guys. I mean, they are under a lot of pressure. I had a meeting with them today, and I was like, hey, like, let's go, man. Let's go. Turn it up. A lot of these guys are set up in their own, and I'm very proud of them. Like, they're very young. They're hungry. None of them have college degrees. They're not business people, come from the corporate world. They're people that would be, they're regular people, basically.
Yeah.
Your average dude that's not, anyway. I'm super proud of my team. I have a great team. They bust their ass. They're fantastic. I love them.
Well, just based on the output, I have no doubt that is true, because you guys are, like I said, you're seemingly everywhere. Before we get too far away from it, I do want to go back to a little story that I think you teased before we do it. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm like being bombarded with flies. I hope that this is.
I don't see them.
All right, well, that's good. You mentioned that you had a Comics Pro story that made you laugh. Can you tell that, or is that something that we should wait for the beer
I'll tell
after?
Man. So it's a few years ago, before COVID, and this just kind of goes to show. It kind of makes the point. Again, I will always be a member of Comics Pro until if they ever kick me out. I love them to death. What they do is vitally important, and I love all those people. They are super important. If their biggest weakness, Achilles heel in my mind, is they're not reaching out to the vast majority of the comics sellers, which don't have brick and mortars anymore. They're dudes that are streaming and have websites they see those people as the enemy, or they're beneath them because they have a brick and mortar. Well, I know plenty of guys that, anyways, vice versa for them. They look down on people that have a brick and mortar because they feel like it's a wasted expenditure. So anyway,
sure.
So
before you leave that, I want to let's pause the rest of the story there.
Sure.
In your wave a magic wand, you get all the votes. You're now the president of Comics Pro. You get the board to agree, right? What is the qualifier then? Because anybody can open a Diamond account. Anybody can get a website. So what point is the qualifier that these are voices that we need to have in the room?
So I would definitely roundtable this, but some of the suggestions I would have would be somewhere along the lines of, and again, some of this may be controversial to ask for,
sure.
But I would want to know, like, what's your, show me your account ordering, numbers.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's a big prover right there. Is I don't need the dude that's at a 30% discount that just happens to order for his own personal collection and happen to snaggle his way into a Lunar, Diamond, and Penguin account because he wants to order 5 speculation book copies and get a ratio, whatever. Like, screw that guy. That guy should be kicked out of his account anyway, right?
Yeah.
So there should be some kind of an ordering threshold, right? Because it doesn't, because what's a stakeholder, right? Like,
right.
If you're putting comics in the hands of readers, you are a stakeholder. Now, I have a saying. I was a veteran. I served 24 years in the Marine Corps. Not all service is created equal. If you did 1 year in the reserves and you got out because you twisted your ankle and you're running around in all your Army gear talking about it's Veterans Day, give me my free meal at Denny's, you can go to hell.
Right.
Because, right, not all service is created equal.
Sure.
If you're a Navy SEAL and you did 6 combat deployments, your service is superior to the dude that did a year in the reserves. Right. I can say that because I served. Anybody want to come at me? Come at me. It's not all service is created equal. Not all retailers are created equal. Right. I know tons of guys that have websites that order double, triple, quadruple the amount of some brick and mortar stores do. But this brick and mortar guy gets to be in there because he has a building with his name on it. Like, sure. I understand that that's the old way, and I get it, right? I think we need to start bringing in some of this young blood. Again, some of the qualifiers can be, hey, if you want to join, yeah, we need to see some confidential information. It'll stay amongst the board, but you need to show us your numbers. Maybe every 3 years somebody does a review or something. I don't know. That sounds very kind of gatekeepery, doesn't it? Right? I
don't know. I think that I will say that as a both as a retailer involved in that organization and then as a publisher, I can say that there is definitely a filter for who gets listened to, and it's very frustrating if you're a small shop that you keep talking and you're loud and you think no one's listening. Well, the truth is they are listening, but one of the main things that they're listening to is what you order, and they see what you order. I think that's a big shock to many retailers is that basically everybody in the comics industry, above you knows how big you are, right? And knows whether or not what you have to say how much is going to affect.
Yeah.
Now that's mitigated by the fact that most people are in that 50, like the Diamond scenario, the 55% off base discount. That's most retailers, right? So if you're in 55s, it's a big gray area. But everybody below that, is also, there's a big chunk of them. So, if you convince them to do something, you can then really sway a sales, but you have to convince all of them. So I guess that's really what I'm saying is none of what you're saying is actually out of line if what you're talking about is influence, because it's already happened.
Yeah. So. And then I feel like, when it comes to influence, I do believe you have to, again, this is going to come off as super gatekeepery, but in the military, I keep going back to this. So my whole adult life, I was a Marine, right? So in the military, you have ranks for a reason because you have to earn your spot somewhere, right? Not all services created equal. Not all retailers are created equal. The Phils of the universe that own 50,000 stores, their voice.
Don't give him that many. He's got a few stores, but his head's big enough. He doesn't need 50,000.
Hey, one of the leaders of the industry, man. Like really,
Absolutely.
right?
And
Like
he
I
has
mean,
earned his place to that.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
1000%. Like that
Yeah.
guy should be looked up to, in my
Sure.
opinion. I'm not afraid to compliment my peer. I don't even see him as a peer. This guy he's a general of the comic book ranks. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Sure.
should be calling him sir and saluting him for everything he's done and everything else, you know? And then
Oh,
there's
I'm
some
sure he would agree with that as well.
but then there's some people that I won't say any names, but they just have big mouths and all they do is advocate for what they think is best for them
Yeah.
and not about the industry. And just because you've had a store for 20 years that's never moved and it's never grown and you stayed in your same comfort zone, I have no respect for you. None. Because you've just stayed in your little comfort zone. You're not an innovator. You're not you just stay in your little corner of the universe. That's fine. Then go stay in the little corner of this room, right? You can stay over there in the corner. Other people get a bigger say. Somebody that runs a massive website whose ordering numbers through FOC are 5 times the amount of a brick and mortar store, that guy should have a bigger voice at the table. So now again, we're talking about, what are we talking about here? We're talking about gatekeeping. I keep saying gatekeeping because I hate gatekeeping, but it's also kind of I don't want to say
No,
necessary.
it's an interesting dichotomy too, because you do want to represent the stores that are coming up. You do want to represent those voices, but you also want to encourage growth, right?
Yeah.
The way to encourage growth is to outsize the voice of those that are growing.
Yeah.
A big part of why I started this podcast is so that I could have voices like yours, voices like Steve Anderson, who I had a few episodes ago, who is a quickly growing retailer, fast, lightning and brick and mortar, all brick and mortars, and he has a website, of course.
It's awesome.
But he should be celebrated. You should be listening to him. Right. And I've had smaller stores who have come to me and say, hey, I'd love to be on. And the truth is, at some point I'd like to represent them. But really, I need to make sure that the voices that you, if you listen to them, your business will grow. I need to make sure that they are heard first.
Yeah.
Right. I think I owe our industry that.
I agree.
Right.
And I would love to see, I know they used to have a mentoring program, I believe through Comics Pro. I would love to see the meetings have, an hour with, let's say, Phil. He's a question and answer period. Hey, here's who, you may not know me. Here's who I am. Here's what I've done.
Yeah.
What do you want to know? What do you got for me? Man, I got to tell you, an hour with that guy would have meant more to me than a dude telling me how to manage employees with a handout that was ridiculous for 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So some of these guys need to have a bigger voice because they've done bigger things. They've walked the walk. They've, like I keep saying, they've innovated, they've grown, they've expanded. They are incredibly invested in the industry. They feed many, many mouths with their employees, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah.
And then again, that should be open to online retailers who are just as big, because it takes more work to run a massive online store than it does to run a brick and mortar. You got to have you got to have employees somebody has to post those books. Somebody has to take orders. They place the order. Somebody has to do customer service, because the customer service is insane, the amount of questions you get. Somebody has to deal with loss and damages and reporting some of those big, just like a store does. But now this order got lost in the mail. Hey, my book never showed up. Hey, my order was incorrect. That's a huge amount of thing. Somebody has to make sure you have shipping materials. Where do you store your back inventory at? How's that warehouse structured? You need an HR person to hire and fire people. You need an onboarding system to bring those people in. How do you train somebody to pull orders? Is your system effective enough to be able to efficiently train somebody to pull those orders and successfully fulfill that order, minimizing your loss and error percentages? Brick and mortars got to deal with that. Hey, did you pay the internet this month? I mean, I'm not minimizing what they do. I have a brick and mortar. I know it's a lot, but
sure.
It's more to manage a massive online store than it is to manage a brick and mortar.
And you would know because you do both. Anyway, I don't want to lose it because you did start it and then I interrupted the Comics Pro meeting. Yes.
So, one of the board members, so I lived in Mountain View. I lived in right back door of Facebook.
Okay.
And I got a message from them inviting me to a conference about selling on Facebook. Like, hey, we're inviting people. We would love for you're local. We'd love for you to come out. And I was like, man, I would love to go to this thing, but I can't. I can't go because I'm too busy. Like, I just got too much to do. I can't take a day and go over there. Like, I can't. I'm still active duty in the Marine Corps. I am on my way out, but I'm active duty. I'm still hustling. I got to sort this con sale. I got to sort this Facebook sale that I just made. I got to work, man. I can't go to this thing. So I go to the Comics Pro meeting, and they're like, oh, and I noticed on the schedule, this dude's going to give a talk about selling comics on Facebook. And I was like, this is going to be cool. This is going to be interesting. Like, I sell comics on Facebook, and there were a few guys that knew who I was, and they were looking at me like, hey, man, are you giving this talk? I was like, it's not me. It's this other dude. So he got up there, and it was almost like a vacation picture, like your grandpa showing you that he went to Yosemite. I went to Facebook, and here's a picture of Facebook. Here's a picture of Mountain View. I got invited to go to this class. Here's a class that I went to. Here's me doing the class. So basically, guys, what I learned is you need to be selling on Facebook, and you should be doing this. So I got to go to this thing, and everybody was like, yay. And I was like, what the F was that? That guy didn't teach us anything. He showed us pictures from his vacation to Mountain View. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't go to that meeting at Facebook about selling on Facebook because I was too busy selling on Facebook. And this dude got up there because he was a board member and just talked about his vacation. But that really kind of showed me that, like, these guys, their heads kind of stuck in the sand a little bit because they didn't see what I was doing. And I didn't need attention. I'm not attention seeking. I didn't need to be like, look how great this guy is. No, I'm not saying that at all. But if you wanted somebody to teach you how to sell comics on Facebook, how about somebody that's actually doing it and making good money doing it? Like, right. It just kind of went to show, like, man, these guys don't know what's happening outside of the brick and mortar universe. They don't understand.
It does highlight, though, I think, a problem, and I think you encapsulated that problem. Comics Pro is, at its heart, a volunteer organization. They have one employee, right? But otherwise, they're volunteers. The board is volunteers. The people who present are volunteers. All of that is true. So the people who are there are making a choice to invest their time there rather than in their own businesses. Now, there have been some critics who have said that some of these people are not, it's not really much of a choice because their own businesses aren't taking up much of their time. But what you just said is like, but there's plenty of people there who I know are having very successful businesses and have placed a priority to this. And I don't want to diminish what they do. Absolutely. Please don't come.
Yeah.
But you highlighted that there's two people there. One who had a pretty decent social media following, so he got invited to present at Facebook, and he came back to say that I went to Facebook and here's what I learned. And two, you, who is so busy selling on Facebook that you don't have time to talk about it. So therefore, how are you going to teach them? Yeah. So it is a problem, though. And what I'm saying, I don't want to diminish the problem in saying that, these idiots. It's not these idiots. It's just that's kind of the nature of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I would love to see them invite somebody that doesn't have a brick and mortar to speak at Comics Pro. Invite them to come sit at the round tables. Do you know how valuable? Again, they're cutting off. I used to say about 50%, and it's probably more than that. They're cutting off 50% of orders of people who order through Diamond and Lunar and Penguin. They're cutting off 50% of people putting books in people's hands, of people that are promoting. If I close my brick and mortar down, I'm still sending out an email every week, multiple times a week sometimes, to 25, 26, 27,000 people promoting comic books. If I was to go back to doing FLC, I stopped doing FLC on my website because it was just a nightmare. But when I was doing that, 26,000 people got to see all the books available on FOC for the week. If I didn't have a brick and mortar, you're telling me that I'm not good enough to go to the round tables and hear what the publishers have to say? I'm advertising their product to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I'm moving thousands and thousands of comic books, right? So I get what you said earlier about what's the qualifier then. Like I said, qualifier should be based on kind of volume. What do you do? You know, because honestly, I wouldn't want the guy that has a website that sells 5 comics a month there.
Sure.
I mean, come on, man. You're just sucking up space. You're just here to get the free variant to flip it on eBay. Like, nobody wants you there, right? You don't have a valuable voice. Again, you know, not to be the guy that judges whose voice is valuable or not, but somebody needs to judge whose voice is valuable or not. Let's be honest here. Like, we're all adults, you know?
Yeah, right. And that should be, I think it should be about a business, right? I don't have a problem agreeing with you on this. But I do know that many board members and many people, at least they tell me, they're blowing smoke up my person. I know that they are, you know, they watch the show. I know that Joe Murray and Jen Haynes, the president and vice president of the board of directors of Comics Pro, they listen. So Joe and Jen, I hope you guys are having this conversation.
Right? You know, I got to tell you, just again, I'm not saying this, just I admire Jen again so much for God, with the things that she's done and what she does and how she handles. I've seen people attack her, the industry, things that she said, and she has got to be the most professional person I've ever seen handle situations. And the way she can articulate things, she can take the most angriest rant, articulate into something professional, nail down the core of what that person's saying, and communicate it to a publisher, whoever it might need to be communicated to. It's so admirable to see that. I mean, I hope she's always the president of Comics Pro, because I think
she's vice president currently.
Oh, sorry, vice president.
Yeah, but it's okay. She's absolutely. She's one of my favorite people, just in general. You know,
see, she does so much. I thought she was the president. That's how awesome she is.
Awesome. Well,
anyway, I don't know when this turned into a big. Let's change.
Let's don't go too far. Let's make a hard left turn.
Sure.
I want you to talk about, you actually talked quite a bit about other women in your life and how they were responsible for different parts of your journey here. So let's just put a moment here and let's talk about the illustrious Kimberly and what effect she's had on your life and your businesses.
She is my reason for everything. And I don't say that lightly. Literally, she is. You're gonna make me get a little dusty out here all of a sudden. So, when the business was
Kimberly,
really,
if you're
really,
watching, you're welcome. All right, go ahead.
She won't. She hates this kind of stuff. She'll fall asleep. She won't watch this stuff. When I met her, I was a 2-time divorcee. I adopted my stepkids from my second marriage because she was currently is a vicious alcoholic and was incredibly abusive. I love those boys. I fell in love with them the moment I met them. And then, of course, I was young. I was stupid. You ignore all the red flags because you think you're in love. I married her. Long story short, I adopted the kids. I raised one from him who was 1 year old, potty trained the kid. The other one was 4 years old. He had severe, really not severe, there's no saying severe, but he had really bad Asperger's. One of my greatest challenges in the world was getting that kid to graduate high school. It was enormous. IEP meetings, everything else. Anyway, when I met Kimberly, I was broke. I just got over being homeless because the business was so upside down. I would have employees. Okay, here's how you submit books for grading. You take a picture of the book with the name on it. You make a spreadsheet of the book with the name on it as a series of checks and balances. And then you submit that to CBCS. You mail it in. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, you got it? Okay, cool. I'm going to watch you do it now. Cool. I'm going to watch you do it one more time. Awesome. Slap the table. You're now allowed to submit books for grading. I'm going to go do something else. 3 months later, books come back from grading. Sweet. All right, let's get these things sorted out and get them into shipping. All right, cool. I'll work on that. All right, a couple of weeks later, why are these slabs still sitting here? I don't know who they go to. How do you not know who they go to? Well, did you do the spreadsheet? I was real busy, so I didn't make a spreadsheet. I wanted to get them submitted. Did you take the pictures? I did, but I can't find them. So how do we know who these books go to? That's my problem. I was about to make a post saying, if anybody submitted a book for grading, please let us know so we can see who's your book. I said, if you do that, we'll get murdered.
Oh.
And this was at a time when I had a couple people, again, a whole nother story. I had people actively coming for me. I had some peers I came up with that were incredibly jealous. They hated everything that I did. They thought I was stealing their ideas and whatever, stealing their customers, all this other crap that I was accused of. And this one dude had an entire Facebook group devoted to talking crap about Comics Elite and me. Said I was a scammer, was going to take me down. Any little misstep, any shipment, some people would go to Facebook and be like, did anybody else get a missed shipment from Comics Elite? The customer service was terrible. My employees were absolute garbage. Long story short, too late.
Got it.
The employees were complete garbage. They were costing me money. So I would have to go live at them. I'm going live on Facebook to make money, to be able to pay for the refunds that we're giving, because we didn't know orders were jacked up. I had a shipping employee that was stealing stuff out of the shipping room. I didn't realize until after he got fired. These big shipments, $450 shipments, these guys would come in and spend money. Some of the whales, their shipment would get lost. Where's the tracking? It says it never left the building. Then it's got to be here. Where is it? Maybe UPS didn't scan it. They were stealing shit. Anyway, I was so broke, I couldn't pay. My lease was up in my house I rented when I moved to Indiana. I couldn't pay for a renewed lease. I'm looking for somewhere to go to move into. I couldn't even afford to put a down payment on renting a room from a dude that had a room for rent in a trailer.
Oh, God.
He wanted $200 a month for this room. It was probably his whole rent, to be honest with you. Yeah. I couldn't afford the $400 he wanted me to put down for a deposit in a first month's rent, because I needed that $400 to pay for my diamond shipment that week or to pay for employees' labors. So I was sleeping in the upstairs of my store. And I would have guys, I was doing Magic the Gathering at the time also. I would have Magic the Gathering players in the store playing Magic until like 2 a.m. So I'm definitely afraid to fall asleep because I snored. I didn't want them to know I was upstairs sleeping. So I would sneak up there and try to sleep and just lock myself in this room. Literally, I'd be afraid to go to the bathroom, so I'd pee in a bottle, because I was afraid for them to know I was there.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to talk about it now, but it was terrible. Talk about being on the bottom. So anyway, I had no business being on a dating app. Right. But I'm on Match.com. And the dating pool was not good. I didn't have a lot to bring to the table anyway. I had nothing to bring to the table, right? And I happened to match with Kimberly, and I was like, she's not going to be real, because if you've ever been in that universe, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. It's horrible. There's fake accounts. I only check the people that are verified. Click here to be verified. It only costs $100. Anyway, it's terrible. She messaged me. She was real. She met me for dinner. I invited her.
Who paid for dinner?
I did.
Okay.
Don't ask me how I did.
No, I won't. It's all right, buddy. You do what you got to do.
It was a struggle. But I said, hey, I'm going to Arizona Comic-Con this weekend. I'm flying to Arizona. And I had enough points from traveling in the Marine Corps. It was one of my last free tickets I had. And Arizona was going to be one of my... I knew Brian Polito would be there, and I could sell the shit out of some Lady Death books, and I was counting on making a crap ton of money. I knew Mike DeBalfo really well, and Ryan Kincaid, and Mike always did the instant edition in Arizona, and I knew I'd be able to sell some of those instant editions and make some awesome money on it. That was going to save the day. I don't know how I invited her. I said, hey, if you want to, I'll fly you to Arizona Comic-Con for our second date. Surprisingly, she said yes.
Second date?
Our second date, she flew to Arizona for Arizona Comic-Con. And our first night there, I won't say the name, but a very major comic artist for Marvel. We wound up, me and Ryan Kincaid, he doesn't care, and a couple other guys, we wound up going to a strip club with this guy for the second date with this girl I was courting, right? I was dating. And I said, hey, these guys want to go to a strip club. She's like, okay, whatever, I'll go. And I was like, wow, like she's Miss Indiana prim and proper. I was shocked. She said yes. Anyway, went there, had a blast. We're cracking up. It was hilarious. And it just, next thing you know, a couple weeks later, I was like, look, I'm just going to be honest with you here. Like, I sleep in my store. And she's like, if you're not playing games with me and you're serious, because I told her from day one, I'm dating to find a life partner, right? Like, anyway, she invited me to move in with her, and I did. And shortly after that, she
Was
realized
date
the
3?
struggles.
She invites you to move in with her?
It was about after a couple of weeks, maybe 4 dates.
Okay. All right.
Big. I mean, I was shocked. And
I
so
know that you and I have been avoiding cursing, so I'm just going to put this. I'm going to actually make this one count, like much like a PG-13 movie where you get to say it once. You are one charming motherfucker. God
I told her.
damn.
And when she met me, I had hair and I was trying to grow goatees, and I looked terrible.
Oh,
So funny, man.
the
It was bad.
goatee. The
It was
goatee.
bad.
Well, there are plenty of pictures of me in a goatee, so
I always tell her she liked the fact I could still bench press 300 pounds back in the day. That's what got her, right. Not anymore. My shoulder blew out. But anyway,
yeah, it
so
happens.
she knew the struggles I was having at the store. She said, "You know what? The next time you do a sale, bring it home, and I will do all the work for it." She said, I will build the spreadsheet. I will sort it out, and I will put them in piles. All you have to do is take them out and ship them to the person. So she would go to work. She managed a title company, Chicago Title.
Oh,
She managed an office at the time. She worked there for like 15 years. She would go to work all day. She would come home, pick up her daughter from school, take care of her daughter, get her homework done, get her in bed. Her daughter's just now starting high school, so however old she was back then. She'd get her in bed. Then she would spend 3 to 4 hours sorting the sale out for me. I would come home at 11, 1, 2 in the morning. The sale's sorted, ready to go. I drop off another one, take it to the work. I told my employees, I said, Kimberly's doing all the work from now on. You have 2 weeks to un-F all these old sales that they had no idea what was happening with them. Yeah. Message the people, sort them out, go through their spreadsheet, figure out what's happening with these old sales. You have 2 weeks. A month later, they still hadn't figured it out. I fired 4 of them. I kept one, Vicky. She's currently still the manager of the store. She's the only one that made it through that time. And Kimberly actually wound up quitting her job and working for me at Comics League. So I was like, how much do you make? She's like, I make about this much. And I said, I can pay you that exact same amount. I could pay you, won't lose a dime. And she was like, hey, I'm tired of getting up at 7 in the morning. I would love to be at work at 9, and I could take off whenever I want to. I could take care of my daughter better. And you're going to give me that freedom? Like, absolutely. So she helped me for a year getting the store up and running, getting the administrative systems in place, training new people, helped me with live sales, going to cons with me. I have a funny ass picture of her at New York Comic Con with 2 wheelie bags. She's pulling up behind her and a backpack on her full of comics. She's looking at me like, I'm going to murder you. Because it was like day 4 of New York after running around like, we didn't have booths back then. Running around like crazy. Go to the Airbnb, get comics, come back, get them signed. Go to Airbnb, get comics, come back, get them signed. Nope, can't go to dinner, got to go live and make money. Get up in the morning, same thing all over again. Anyway, so she did all that for me. After a year, she was able to quit her job, and now she is vacation manager and vacation planner and house manager. That's what she does for us. She gets to stay home. She takes care of me and takes care of the house. We bought our dream house. She's very well taken care of. Her daughter is spoiled rotten. She took a gamble on me when nobody else would. No one else believed in me. I felt like the whole internet was coming after me. These guys were trying to take me down, and I would spend hours in these groups trying to defend myself. She gave me the best advice ever. She said, you have to leave these groups and ignore these people. You have to ignore these people or they will devour you. And to this day, I still have to remind myself, don't get sucked into the internet. I don't care about the opening ceremony at Paris. I don't care. I don't care about who's offended today. I don't care that this guy's talking crap about RDJ playing Dr. Doom and I think it's great. He hates it. I'm not going to debate. I don't care. I don't care. I have businesses to run. And that's her best advice she gave me is don't engage. There's a couple out there, I won't even grace the internet with their names, give them any attention. They actively talk smack about me, Jamie Tyndall, Brian Polito. They're constantly going after them. And I don't care. I don't care about them. I don't care what they say. They are nobodies to me. They're nobodies to me. They'll never accomplish anything what I've accomplished because they're too busy talking shit about everybody else. So they're focusing on themselves.
And the best thing you can do is never say their name. You are now a publisher, right?
Yes,
you
sir.
are now a printer, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, I will tell you that being somebody who has worked in both as retailer and then started working as a publisher, and then sold for several years. I sold exclusives for a publisher. So I dealt with a lot of the retailers you're talking about earlier who handle a lot of exclusives. I can tell you the biggest frustration that every publisher faces when dealing with those guys is the misunderstanding that what they're doing is publishing, right? When you go in and you say, I'm going to take this run of books, I'm going to take the whole run of this portion of the print run, and I'm going to put my cover on it, you are de facto becoming a printer, right? Because you now own that piece of it. And in the same way that every printer from ever who has dealt with a printer knows that some of those books don't come in as 10.0s. We all know this. There's no way to guarantee that. But I can tell you, I mean, right now that there are what we think of as let's say popular, right? Successful is probably maybe is a good word, but definitely popular top retailers who are in this space who are killing their reputations by insisting on that grade for everything.
Yeah.
And they're killing any goodwill they get from the publisher, from the distributor, from anybody along that line. So I know I'm really feeding you this question because you could have argued with me. I mean, you might have thought I was wrong. But how do you think about that now, now that you have filled all those roles?
Well, so again, another reason why I took this path, doing variants with Marvel and DC, specifically Marvel, because Vince, who now works at Dynamite, as you know, Vince was the exclusive guy for DC for a long time. And one of the best things he did, and he should get credit for this, he made all variants become cardstock variants for DC. This is a few years back. And it drastically reduced the damages that we had. I think he did that just after Batman 50, possibly, because that was a massive ordering. And when Metal was coming up, Death Metal, DC Metal #2 from Steiner Capullo, that's, I think, when he changed over to the cardstock. Nick recently started doing the same thing at Dynamite. I'm sure it's Vince's influence helped him go over to cardstocks also, because we would get a lot of damages from Dynamite too. The biggest problem I had was with, if I paid for Marvel for 3,000 sellable copies, I don't know what happened to retailers, but we lost our spine for convenience. I would get, Marvel used to overprint by like maybe not even 10%. Like I wouldn't get 3,300 in case of damages. I would get like an extra 80 because of damages, right? There were sometimes I would be throwing away cases of trade dresses. And they'd be like, oh, just report them to Diamond. The virgins are the worst. If I would pre-sell, and this is back when they sold a lot better, I'm not going to refund a $30 book to get a $3 credit.
Right.
Like, give me a sellable product. Like, it's incumbent upon you to give me I'm not asking for 10s or even 9/8, because we all started putting in our descriptions, we promise the books will be 9.4 to 9.8. Right. Still near mint. Right. I think Unknown even goes down to 9.2 or something for some reason. But so just give me a product I can sell. But we became Marvel's little bitches, where we would just bow down and say, oh, it's such an inconvenience to tell your customers, I have to request a reprint for this book. Then I'm fighting with Marvel to get a reprint because it's not approved. I got to send tons and tons of pictures. And they're like, that's not damaged enough for us to consider a reprint. And sometimes they'll only reprint it if it goes to a second printing, because they can piggyback off that second printing, because you know how they get those massive discounts from ordering from them. So, and what they charge us is ridiculous. Anyway, we wouldn't get what we're promised. The smaller the print run, the more control you have over it, right?
Right.
So, and that's why I bought a printer because, like, I was seeing the invoices I was paying for these printing bills, and when you're not doing offset and you're doing digital printing,
right,
your cost is, I cannot print books to go to Lunar or Diamond. I would have to sell those books for $10 a copy.
Right.
because the profit margins aren't there, as you know. I can't do
Yeah,
it.
because you're doing. It doesn't matter what scale you're printing them at when you're doing them digitally.
Yeah.
The first copy is the same as the 1100th copy.
Yep.
Right? It's
Exactly.
exactly the same, as
And if you
opposed
want
to offset printing, where we used to joke about, the first copy costs you $10,000, the second copy costs you 40 cents.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Yeah. And if you're lucky to get them that cheap. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's difficult if somebody wants to throw a fit like this guy, whoever you're talking about, because I've dealt with those guys. Um, there was one guy, I sent him a bunch of Venom books. He complained they would not grade 9/8. I said, yes, they will. To make a point to him, I said, send them back to me. I took his shipment. I didn't even open it up. I sent it straight to CBCS, and 90% of those were 9.8s. And I did it just to make a point to him. I should have videoed the whole thing. And he had to eat some crow. I said, bro, you know what you're talking about. You're grading these like anyway. Marvel and
I get
DC
it.
are graded on a different scale than other things are. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to throw a fit about something, that's just a quick way to get cut off. I know one of the biggest printers in the industry, Artist Express. I'll say John at Artist Express.
Yeah,
You want some great books printed? Go to John Artist Express. Anthony Delaney and John, they're in Arizona. Best printers I've ever dealt with. Gentlemen, professionals, highest quality I've ever dealt with. I started if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have my printing company. Believe it or not, this guy gave me so much advice that he helped me basically take tens of thousands of dollars of business away from him, because he's that good of a person to help me start my printing business. Because he also knows
yeah,
I'm not going to take business away. I just want to I have enough business to print my own books. I'm not
right.
trying to print other people's books. I want to print my own comics. That's it.
Yeah,
And my printer has trouble keeping. We make our own metals too. We had to do our own metal comics. The only thing we can't do is foils. We still order foils from John at Artist Express. So we produce the best quality metals in the industry. I challenge anybody to take me to task on that. And we have some of the best quality printing right up there with Artist Express. We do
awesome.
different stuff. He has a different way. Everything we do is inline. He can do stuff that's a lot different. He can collate his pages differently. We can't do that because I'm just not to that point yet, if I ever will be. He's been doing this for years and years and years. I just started. So, but yeah, we print anything that's sold on Comics Elite that's a Power Hour or a Merc book or anything else like that. Any thing from Black Ops Publishing, Queens of Dixie, Jinkies, Jesse Zombie Hunter, Power Hour, what else? Miss Meow, Catfight, Death Rage, any of our titles, they're all printed at Comics Elite. Well, not Comics Elite anymore. I've been kicked out. I'm in a new building. It's now Joint Force Printing is the name of that printer. So Joint Force Printing prints all of those books in the former Comics Elite warehouse that she kicked me out.
Well, that's just rude. Doesn't she know who you are?
She needed it. She needed to kick me out. She's fantastic. Brittany, she
Right.
is the best.
I want to make a left-hand turn here. It's something that you saw early and you leaned way into, and I think a lot of people are still catching up to you. Let's talk about crowdfunding. Let's talk about
Okay.
Kickstarter, right?
Sure.
Listen, we're already at an hour and a half, and I could probably spend a good solid hour or two just with you on Kickstarter. So I'm going to intentionally say someday we're going to come back if you enjoyed this process, and we'll do a deep dive, because I
Sure.
do feel like you found some specialty here, and I know that you have studied those who are uber successful, because you and I have had these conversations. So as I know that you are somebody who can make a long story short in 40 minutes. What would you say are the biggest secrets for doing campaigns in Kickstarter?
So you have to bring your own audience to Kickstarter. 100%. You have to bring your own audience to Kickstarter. Kickstarter is not Field of Dreams. It's not Build It and They Will Come. I see so many people complaining on social media, Facebook, about, I did a comic and no one's buying it. All people want are girly books. All they want is not safe for work books. That's all people want anymore. I think the industry is hurting because these people are making these comics. Shut up. Shut up. Make your own. If you can't make a comic successfully, Don't complain about it. Nobody wants to read your story. Sorry. Or you don't have a market in the first place, right? I can actually talk about this here and kind of make an announcement, if you will. So, Blackouts Publishing will no longer be doing Kickstarters on Kickstarter. They will all be done in the same crowdfunding format, but on our website.
Interesting.
Because we did a very, very deep dive, myself and Jamie, over the last probably 4 or 5 Kickstarters we did. And we haven't had one ever hit below $50,000. We've done 20, more than 20 now at this point, maybe 30. Shame on me for not knowing that number. I forget. We've had 4 go over 6 figures. None has been under 50, and they all average about 70 to 80,000. We think that less than 1% comes from Kickstarter. We bring our audience to Kickstarter. They want the books. We tell them where to go to get them. We go to Kickstarter to get them. So why are we giving Kickstarter 10%? Just 10%. Not once it's done with the processing fees and everything else. Plus, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of things. There's a thing called drop pledges. So, for example, if we have an $80,000 campaign, there was one time we got maybe $62,000 from the campaign to the bank because of their fees and drop pledges. Now, you can recover drop pledges sometimes by communicating to some people, but if someone goes in there and decides that my credit card's not going to work for this $3,000 pledge, you have no way to recover that. There's nothing to do about that. So we don't need to do it anymore. So I tell everybody, don't do Kickstarter unless you have a built-in audience. So step 1, do you have a Facebook page for your property? Do you have an Instagram account for your property? Do you have a basic website? Doesn't even have to be e-commerce. A basic website that explains what your property is. No, then do that. Number 1, do that. Number 2, get people to follow it. Don't invite your grandma and your mom and your aunt and your kids, because that's going to screw up the algorithm. And if you try to invest money into a post to do a lookalike audience, you're going to get grandmas and aunts and, so you got to be smart about things. But yeah, first I tell people, don't do Kickstarter. Don't do Kickstarter unless you have your own audience to bring to Kickstarter.
I often tell clients who ask about Kickstarter, I always say that it's poorly named. It should be called Kickender, because it's the thing you do after you build the audience. Right?
Yeah,
it is how you close that loop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm absolutely with you.
Well
done. That's exactly well said. And I'm serious. I do want like a full, solid power hour with Shawn Hudachko where we could talk crowdfunding.
I would love to talk. I have much to say about crowdfunding. It's been a boon for us, and it's also been very, very detrimental for us also. It's been enormously good, and it's also been very, very hurtful. Very hurtful.
All right, let's tease that there's going to be more, but give me the number one hurt. What was the pain? What was the pain point?
You have to be incredibly disciplined with the money you get from the campaign. Yeah. Most people are not. I've fallen into the trap of, I got to pay this bill. We just got Kickstarter money in. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm going to do this, and I'll launch this other cover later that'll recoup that money. If that other thing you plan to do doesn't recoup money, now you have to pay for the printing of the book. You have to pay for fulfillment of the book. A lot of people don't realize that if you charge shipping up front in Kickstarter, they're taking 10% of your shipping cost also, plus processing fees. So now you're losing money on shipping. We could probably have much bigger campaigns, but we don't charge for shipping during our Kickstarter. We do it in BackerKit. You got to have somebody that knows how to use BackerKit. BackerKits. We just had 2 Stripe accounts get canceled because they don't like the content that we do. They call it pornography. And it's not. It's clearly not. But we've had 2 of them canceled. So that's another catalyst to not using Kickstarter, because BackerKit, Kickstarter are 2 separate companies. But we don't need BackerKit. We don't need Kickstarter. We don't need to bring our audience to them. We have an audience. I don't need a sales platform. Most people don't have a sales platform. They don't have a website. They don't have a way to collect payments and successfully, conveniently ship those orders out. I have those websites. I don't need their method of collecting payments and shipping orders out. I already have that built in-house. I built it up over the last 10 years. Why do I need Kickstarter? The answer is I don't. And most people, as you said, should not be going to Kickstarter also. They have no business doing Kickstarters.
Your note about being very, very diligent with the money that you get is something that, listen, much bigger organizations than yours are learning the hard way.
Here's another funny thing. I'll mention this. Imagine if I posted how much my website made last week.
Sure.
I'd be viewed as some kind of a douche. What are you bragging? Or is this good? Is it bad? Like, why are you posting this? This is confidential information that companies don't post. But you post about how much your Kickstarter made all the time. All the time. Why
Maybe
is that? Why is that
Maybe
okay?
you should be telling people what you make. Maybe that's it. Maybe we'll just have a Comics Elite, like just a ticker at the top of every stream from now on.
But I mean, that would probably turn some people away, right? Look at this guy posting how much he made on his website. What a douche, right? But if I post on his Kickstarter, maybe people are like, congratulations. Oh man, congratulations. Good for you. People must really like your stuff. Like, you should see how much a Shikari cover makes. Like, it crushes some of my Kickstarters, so, but I can't post that because, it's so weird how we view the world sometimes, right? How flip-floppy we are in comic books. Anyway.
So you were early on Facebook Marketplace, or Facebook Not Live, right? You were early on Kickstarter, now to the point where you don't need it, right? What's next? Not just what's next for you, because I would love to hear that. But let's say you are talking to a young Marine, right, who loves comics. What's next for him? What would be the focus of your attention now?
Really digging into websites have evolved and are incredibly complex now on the backside with sales funnels, figuring out a good sales funnel, customer engagement. So I'd say step one, everybody needs to really invest into their knowledge of an e-commerce platform. It doesn't have to be Shopify, it can be WooCommerce, whatever you want it to be, but that'd be my first advice. And second is streaming. Live sales are, in my opinion, they're the future. I don't know.
Still, you don't think that streaming suffered a bit? No?
Well, it did suffer, but the entire industry suffered because of, the government made us all stay home and gave us free money.
Yeah, and then we all went back to work. Right.
And then we had to go back to work. So, the free money's gone, so the whole industry started hurting. And then we could talk about that theory all day long. That also coincided with the Marvel Universe ending with that game, and then the next phase sucked, and the speculators dried up because nobody cares that this person just got announced to be in this movie and their key first appearance goes up. Nobody cares anymore because people realized that's a fool's game to play that. But yeah, I think streaming is not going anywhere. I think the reason people fail at streaming is my streaming 101 to a young Marine would be this: you have to be entertaining, and you have to educate people. If you're entertaining and you educate people, the sales will happen naturally. People get that backwards. People just do this. Here's a comic, starting bid $3. Who wants it? Oh, nobody wants it. Why? Why does nobody want my comic? I have more comics. What do you guys want to see? What do you want to see? I have another comic. Here's one. Do you want this one? And then they don't make any sales. And they're like, what's the title? Who's the artist? Why should I buy it? What happened in the issue? Are you being entertaining, engaging? Not jumping up and down and going, let's go, baby, let's go. Those guys are annoying as shit, and I'll turn them off in a minute. Know your market. You're advertising to me and you. Gen X. I don't want some dude jumping up and down going, let's go, baby. I don't want your wife or their boobs hanging out. I'm like, that's maybe 10 years ago I want to watch that. I don't watch it anymore. And now I'm just like, oh, come on, man. You're embarrassing yourself, right? Like,
yeah.
But it's there. If you can establish yourself as a credible authority in the comic industry and don't lose that credibility by pushing a bunch of garbage on people. Guys, this book is huge. It's the first Robin in this universe. Someday it's gonna, nobody cares about this book. And I should tell them that, be honest. Nobody cares about this book, but it could be a key. $2, it's yours. I don't care, you know? So I think streaming is there, but people fail at streaming because they don't understand streaming. They don't understand the purpose of streaming. You have to engage, you have to be entertaining, you have to educate people. You got to, the world's competing for people's attention, right? Yeah. We're what, hour and a half into this. I'd love to see the analytics on how many people are still watching this.
Oh, it's literally like 6. But I'm still watching it. I make this for me.
There you go.
That's what
if you section it out and say, you know.
Oh yeah, that is the plan. Actually, someday is to do. Someday, as soon as I have the bandwidth or somebody who can do it for me, I'm going to go in and have them say, "All right, I want the 6 things that Shawn said that everybody should hear," and have it inside of 15 minutes, and that will get a lot more viewership. Yeah. But right now, I'm just
and that's the kind of stuff where we're on this verge of this technological revolution with AI, and I hope AI art hasn't. People thought it was going to be the end of artists. That's absurd. I think we could do a whole nother talk about AI artists and people using it and not admitting it and being deceitful and scammy about it. That's abhorrent, and those people should be called out. And I call them out all the time, and I have no problem calling them out for that all the time, and everybody should. But we're in this AI revolution where the thing you just talked about, there's a learning curve, but I'm sure there's an app and a program out there that would do it for you. But,
I'm sure, yeah.
But again, like you just said, when you can clone yourself and you can dedicate a week to learning this new software for how to use it, and then a week later another software comes out and that one doesn't work anymore. You got to learn the new software because we're just learning in leaps and bounds, right?
Or the user agreement changes and suddenly you own everything. They owe you.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But yeah, the streaming thing I don't think is going away at all because it's a way to reach so many. You can engage people. You can reach people. You can establish yourself as a credible source. I don't know if Whatnot is the answer. Whatnot made some mistakes, in my opinion, by offering all these giveaways. So you get people who are looking for free shit. So I've had 40 people in the room, and I have a book that's 75% off, and it's a desirable book, and nobody's bidding on it. I'm like, what's happening? But I've also had 15 people in a room, and they're spending money like crazy because it's about having the right people in the room, right? It's not about numbers; it's about the right numbers. Right? I don't care. I have 1,000 people in my stream. I don't give a shit. How much money did you make? You know, like I don't want a bunch of looky-loos watching. I want people that are they're engaged and want to collect comics and enjoy and read the stories or collect the covers and actually buy something because we're here to make money, right? eBay Live. Exactly. I've heard good things about eBay Live. I don't know. I think that the world is still figuring out this live streaming thing. So, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I really don't.
What's something that people get wrong about you?
I'm a dick. I have this reputation, man, of people just think I'm a huge jerk, and you know, I've
found that the guy I'm talking to now is the same guy I've always chatted with. I mean, you're just a sweetheart, right?
I just can't. I cannot be me. Like, you know, if somebody says something stupid, I mean, I say stupid stuff all the time. Constantly. If I say something stupid, I want you or whoever's next to me to be like, did you just say that? And I'll be like, oh my God, I did. That was dumb. And it was, or if I'm wrong, if we're in a heated discussion and I'm wrong about something, tell me I'm wrong because I may not know that I'm wrong. But the problem is people don't like to be told the truth. And I tell all my employees, especially my employees, I am brutally honest. And if you're screwing something up, I'm going to tell you. And I will never blow smoke. I will never tell you, you did a great job today. If I think you did an average job, I'm not going to tell you did a great job because you just did an average job. You showed up, you did your job, you went home. Thank you. Here's your paycheck. That's it. What do you want from me? Like if you did an extraordinary job, you worked all weekend, you busted your ass, I'm going to recognize that. I'm going to praise you. I'm going to use you as an example to your peers. You may get a bonus if you do that consistently. If you suck, I'm going to tell you suck. You got to get better. Like, you know, like you just have to be honest, and people can't take that. So people think I'm a jerk, whatever.
24 businesses and counting, wife, multiple kids. You obviously you talked earlier about focus. Other than refusing to engage in whatever is the internet conversation of the moment, what and any conversation about you, what would you say is there a secret to your hyper focus? Is there something? Is there a physical practice? Is there a mental practice? Is there something that you're doing?
I'm as susceptible to distractions as the next guy. I mean, I have to consciously. My business is ran mostly on a lot of it's on Facebook. I use Messenger for all my communication. If you want me to not reply to you, send me a text. I don't even see it. I'll never reply to you. I'll send you a year later. I'll answer a text. Even emails are sketch. Hit me on Messenger. I'm going to reply back to you. If I don't bump me, it goes to the top. I'm going to reply back to a Messenger. I can't. I love listening to music on YouTube. As soon as I scroll down, I know I'm done because I'm going to see a reel and the algorithm is going to target me with something about MMA or Michael Jordan. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to want to watch it, and I'm done. Now I'm stuck clicking. Oh, I'm forward that to the wife. That's a good one. Oh my God. And then I'm like, what am I doing? So I have to just have, my little book here. Oh, got that from a summit, the lunar book, right? I got my little book and I have to stay, kind of the Marine Corps kind of trained me for this, but these pages are done, and I have to keep everything. What am I doing today? And here's what I always tell people, Adam, is this: find your why. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind. Step 1, what's your end goal? What's your why? Why do you want to sell comics? Why do you want to open a comic store? Why do you want to own a business? Why do you want to own this exclusive? Why are you doing this show? Whatever it is, start with your why. Because that why is going to motivate you during the dark times. That why is going to motivate you when everybody's turned against you. That why is going to motivate you when your wife is bitching at you to come home. That why is going to motivate you and drive you. So that why has to be significant. It has to be significant. My why is I came from nothing. We were not a well-off family. Things were not good growing up. They weren't terrible. Other people have had it worse. I'll never complain. Some people have had horrible lives, but it wasn't good. And I want to create generational wealth for who I leave behind. I want Kimberly to not have to worry about money when I'm gone. I want her daughter to have a road of golden opportunity paved in front of her. I want to have the things that I've not had, right? I don't need to own a Lambo. I'm not trying to be that guy. I have my Corvette. It's my dream car. I'm happy. I have my dream house. I'm happy. I do want to own a vacation house in Florida. Maybe I'll be able to retire there. That's my why. I want to be able to retire in 5 years. 56, I want to have my second retirement done. I don't have to worry about money. I want to be debt free, and I want to be able to live my life because, again, I'm getting preachy here, but I'm not a religious guy. You're on this world. I believe this is the world according to Shawn. We get one shot at this world, man. That's it. I'm 51. Again, not as old as you, but I'm 51. We're almost the same age, guys. I'm just teasing out. For all I know, man, if I got 20 good years of life left, if I make it to 71, let's say I get to 71, I only got 20 summers left. What'd you do last summer? What'd you do the summer before? How about the summer before that? Sometimes you forget. I tell my wife, make sure we take 2 vacations a year. We go to Jamaica twice a year, no matter what's happening. I drop what we're doing. We allocate that money. We go to Jamaica twice a year. We just took her daughter. We went on a family vacation to Turks and Caicos. So now we took 3 tropical vacations this year because I've never been to Europe. I've never seen the Colosseum. My why is I want to live my life as much as I possibly can while I'm here. Because when I'm gone, that's it. I don't want to go home and watch television for hours and hours and hours, unless it's with my wife and we're watching something together and not doing this while we're watching TV. Did you see that? Huh? No, I missed it. What do you say? Oh, that's so fun. It's not watching TV together. You're sitting in front of a screen while you're on little screens. It's not spending family time together. Anyway, now I'm getting preachy, but that's my why, man.
I bet you were just the badass recruiter of all time. I can just see it now, man. I'm ready to join the Marines, and I don't even. There's no way. There's no way they have me. What do you think is the biggest threat to there are 2 questions left, and I ask these to everybody. Biggest threat to the direct market right now, to comics in general.
The writing of the treatment of the characters we all love and cherish. That's the biggest threat. It's the biggest threat.
Interesting.
Those writers and publishers and artists, mostly the publishers, because they hire the writers and everything else, right? They're supposed to. They are the gatekeepers of the characters we love and cherish. I love the Hulk and Spider-Man and Wolverine and the X-Men and Batman, and I love those characters. We grew up with them. They were our childhood. If I'm walking through the store and I see a Spider-Man, I will stop and turn my head. What is that? If it's a beach towel, oh, it's a beach towel. But I still turn my head. They're the gatekeepers. We want good stories with these characters that we love and cherish. We want good, significant, poignant stories that develop the characters in a significant manner that we can relate to. Lately, the last few years, as we've all heard, just get on YouTube, you'll see it. Everyone talking about, the call it what you will, the woke mob, whatever you want to call it, but the writers have not had, in my opinion, the best interest of the characters in mind. They have their own personal agendas in mind. They want to tell their stories about something that none of us can relate to, because they feel like it's just time. I'll never forget when Tom King, they made, this is the worst reply I think I've ever heard. Donnie Cates was in my store doing a store appearance, and they just announced that Tom King was going to make, Superman was gone, and Jonathan took over as Superman, and they were going to announce that he's bisexual. Tom King made him bisexual, and it's a big controversy. And the big headline was Superman's now gay, right? Of course, that's not the real story, but that was the headline.
Sure.
And I don't care. I some of my best friends are gay, man. I have nothing against those. They're in my opinion, gay guys are fun to hang out with than regular guys sometimes. Those guys are hilarious, man. They're awesome.
Those are pretty boring gay guys, but also I agree. Yeah, sure.
But we asked Donnie, hey, what do you think about Superman being gay now? And it was during a live stream, and of course it has to be political, but he said, I think it's about time. And I was like, that was the stupidest answer ever. What do you mean it's about time? Are we required to make every character, every gender and race and something at some point? Remember when they made the Punisher black way back when? And Punisher.
I know we're an hour 58 in here, and this is our first real conflict. I gotta disagree with this completely.
Let's do it
thoroughly, all the way through.
Okay.
Those people deserve to see themselves as well. Sometimes when those writers are telling stories, they're telling their own stories.
Sure.
I don't know what Tom King's sexuality is. I don't know. He might be telling his own story.
Sure.
And those people, the people that are coming into the comic shops to pick those books up, they deserve to have their story told as well. And they deserve to see themselves.
Sure.
And further, we as an industry deserve to have them as customers. We deserve to have them coming in the doors looking for these things where they heard, okay, it's time for me to come and see what this is about. So yeah, we need that too.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, I don't think that's disrespect to those characters at all.
Okay.
Also, wait a minute. We're going to deal with this. Also, let's talk about business, right?
Yes.
How much money has Marvel made off of the movies where they're introducing the female Thor, and how much bullshit did they get when that came out? How much? I mean, shit tons of bullshit that they was just metric tons of bullshit came down on their heads because they decided to make a Thor female. You know what? It wasn't about you. It was about making movies for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry. You and I are going to have to hard disagree on this.
No. and here's what I would say. I agree with you 100% on what you just said.
Sure.
Everybody should be able to see themselves reflected in a significant manner in a comic. I agree with you. I had no problem way back when they, Hulk became Korean. I forgot the name of the character, but Amadeus Cho inherited the mantle of the Hulk and was Korean. And they came up with Kamala Khan was Miss Marvel, right? It was Miss Marvel.
Sure.
Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man was black.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I loved that. I had no problem about that at all. I enjoyed those stories. Jason Aaron's run when Jane Foster, at the culmination, spoiler alert, if anybody hasn't read this yet, when Tony Stark tells her, if you change into Thor one more time, you're burning the chemo out of your body, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And she does it anyway in a heroic act of selflessness, which is what heroes do. Almost brought me to tears reading that story. I love that story. But do that. Don't take Superman and don't change the characters that we already know and love. For example, don't retcon Robin and say, oh, by the way, Tim Drake's been bisexual this whole time. No, man.
But that happens in real life. That happens in real life. That happens in real life. Your kids come in. Your kid comes in to your house. Let's say I don't know your kids. And I apologize. I don't want to personalize it. But let's say one of your kids comes home and says, "You know what, man? I love you, and I appreciate what you guys have done. I know that you're going to react poorly to this. Maybe they don't. But I'm fictionalizing your house.
But that happened.
And they say I'm gay. I'm bisexual.
That totally happened.
Now that you've taken this person that you thought you knew, and you're having to learn something new about them.
Yes.
How is that any different?
There's a huge difference because my son, so my oldest adopted son did the exact same thing. Came home to me one day. He was already graduate high school. He said, I'm bisexual. And my answer was no shit. Like I've known that for a long time. I'm glad you finally discovered that. All you talk about is this dude. You're obsessed with this dude. You talk about him more than you've ever talked about a girl. Like, and it's in a strange way. I'm pretty sure you guys have been messing around with each other. Like, I'm happy for you. And he's like, wow, I thought you were not going to have that response. So it happened to me. Here's the difference though. My son is, he is himself. He's an autonomous, free-thinking individual who controls his own destiny. These characters they belong to, I want to say all of us, but they've had such an impact. Again, they're gatekeepers, right? So the writers that write let's use Tim Drake as a perfect example. Tim Drake has been defined for many, many years by, we all know how, we voted to have the Joker kill him. He was whiny for a while. The Joker beat the shit out of him with the crowbar. They brought him back, right? Of course, everybody comes back. Like, all these things are accepted. But then when you try to, and it wasn't done as the next evolution of this character. It wasn't made of, you know what, the best thing to do to evolve this character is we're going to make Tim Drake bisexual. That's the best thing to evolve this character. It was done because it was almost like a check in the box. And if you ever read that storyline, it's probably one of the worst written, illustrated Robin stories in a very, 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 very long time. It is a horrible. And when you do that, that's where I have a problem.
You and I will agree that we shouldn't put out shitty comics. Yeah, I'll agree with that. But what I will say is, I think you're missing, to my mind, I think you're missing the fact there was two things. One, George Lucas very famously said when he changed his movies and people came to him and said, why are you changing these movies? These movies belong to us. He said, no, they belong to me. It was my house. I wanted to paint it white. It's white. These movies now belong to Disney, right? These characters now all belong to Disney or Warner Brothers or who the hell ever else owns DC now. I don't understand. I don't think the people who work there do. But they belong to those companies, and those companies have needs that these characters fill. And part of what that need is to diversify to new audiences.
Well, and if they choose to do that, again, there's just repercussions to that. Like, they can do whatever they want to do. However, when you alienate the vast majority of your readers, there's repercussions to that. So if they want to take Tim Drake and make another perfect example, Batman's black. Well, it was a different character. It was in future state. He took up the mantle. They didn't take Bruce Wayne and have him take a whole bunch of peptides that turned his skin black and have him all of a sudden Wayne Manor gets destroyed and he has to move to the ghetto. Or, like, they didn't do that. They didn't change the core of who somebody is, right? For the sake of just of diversity, equity, inclusion. They didn't just do that. They made a different character become the Batman. I don't think anybody really has a problem with that. When you take a different character, put them in that mantle. It'd be like all of a sudden saying Wolverine all of a sudden has been transgender his whole life. And we're going to reveal a story about how Wolverine was really Jane Howlett instead of James Howlett. And he went through a transition way back when. And he's been this ever since. Imagine how ridiculous that would be.
I would read that book, and you know what? I would read that book, and it wouldn't affect how I accepted the books from earlier. Or if they change it back, it wouldn't accept how I appreciate the books after that. Well, you know why? Because I'm an adult.
Well,
I'm capable of saying that I enjoyed all that. Okay. This I don't enjoy. I'm capable of that.
You know,
right, we don't need to do this all night.
No, but you know what? Here's what I love about this is we can agree to disagree on things.
Sure. Absolutely.
And that's why people are different, right? Yeah. And like I say, the publishers can do whatever they want to with their characters. However, there's repercussions to that. And I think the sales have reflected how the fans have responded to what they've tried to do with some of the characters. I'm trying to be gentle to some of them. I hate being the doom and gloom with some of these YouTubers where everything sucks and blah, 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 because everything doesn't suck, right?
Everything doesn't suck. The comics industry is not dying. You know, YouTube is a really poor place for understanding how comics works. But yeah, I get you. Listen, I would argue, though, there's a reason they keep doing it. And the reason is not how to sell 10,000 more comics.
Well, yeah, I don't know the reasoning. I think it's because, and this is, I'm basing this on nothing.
Yeah, sure.
So full disclosure, basing this on nothing whatsoever. It appears as though, just my general appearance, it appears as though like people get into echo chambers, and just like on Facebook, if you follow a bunch of far right or far left stuff, that's all you're going to see. Yeah. That's all you're going to see. You're never going to see a differing opinion. You're just going to see the most wackiest. It's going to get wackier and wackier the more you're in those echo chambers.
Absolutely. We all create our own reality now, right?
Yes. Yeah. Same thing with certain people. I've been with groups of people that believe this is how you do a thing. And everyone believes that because we all have the same belief system and this is how you do a thing. And someone else comes in from outside. Whoa, you're not welcome here because you don't think like us. And I think that could be what, again, I'm basing this on nothing, but it appears as though that just could be what's happening. The publishers and the writers and the people in those houses, they're patting each other on the back and saying, congratulations. Oh man, we found a way to put this DEI thing in here. We made this person gay or trans or this. There was a Flash story where there was a variant version of the Flash, and they very clearly made it to where you could see and it was a trans Flash. And they put a scene in there where you could really see where the scars are, where this person had a mastectomy. And the person was like a 17-year-old kid. And it's like, what do you, like, this is a kid. Like, you know, like there's so many, and then you get into, and I have no desire to talk about this with anybody because I can't change it at all. Right. But then you get into the whole crazy system of, is this really a thing? Are people pushing on it? Is there? And I hate the word agenda because I don't believe that is a thing, really. Sure. But how much of this is real? Like, I saw an interview with a Disney executive. This is the last thing I'll say about this whole thing and say what we want to. But so I'm with a Disney executive. It was leaked somewhere, and she goes, "Oh, I have a non-binary and a something. There's a non-binary and a not trans. It was a different kind of gender at home. A 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and one's non-binary and one is this." And I'm going, no, they're not. You push that on those kids. I've had kids, and a 4-year-old kid is only worried about when am I going to get my next cookie and what's coming on TV. They're not debating their gender. Like, that's something that these people.
I don't think that's a debate, though. I think that's
it's just a like. So
I know that's you and I don't need to get into gender politics and how to define that. But here, I will say this, and I will let you have the last word on this, but I do want to just say, I would challenge you, Adam to Shawn, right? agenda versus agenda, throw that out. I would challenge you to question how much of what you're believing is because the echo chamber you are in.
That's good. That's good. I base a lot of, I try to diversify as much as I can. Just a little bit more come on me. I listen to Fox News and CNN. I go back and forth because I want to hear both sides, whatever. I consider myself very center. I'm not, I do not like the far right or the far left. I'm an atheist, so I don't get along with the far right people. And I believe in, but I'm also for everybody should own a gun. So I don't get along with the far left people either. So I'm all over the place. But, I think about this. I was raised with 3 sisters. If I wanted to play with my He-Man guys and my Thundercats with somebody, I had to play with their Barbies. It was a compromise.
Okay.
If my mom would have came to me as a child and said, "Hey, I noticed you're playing with the Barbies. It's okay if you want to play. Do you like playing with Barbies?" I guess. I mean, He-Man guys are really dolls too. All those Secret Wars guys you have, they're actually dolls too. So if I like playing with dolls, it's okay. I could have very easily been mentally manipulated through questions about, well, I'm just trying to make sure he feels secure in his skin. If you want to play with dolls with your friends, if they criticize you playing with dolls, they're not good friends, and you should play with these people. And I could very easily have been manipulated down the road of where I was like, I guess I like playing with dolls. My mom says it's okay to play with dolls. I guess I like playing with dolls. And not all. It's okay. Not all boys do this. Girls do this too. And you could also be. There's a thing in the middle between boys and girls. It's called non-binary. And maybe you could be that too. I don't know. Maybe I could be. Even maybe I am non-binary. I don't know. Like, well, if you think this, you could be. A child can very easily be manipulated down that road.
You could also say that you were being manipulated by your sister playing with Barbies and you playing with Thundercats. But that was also a manipulation of gender. That was also you being set up as needing that. And what I'm saying is, not every child who has that identification, or maybe voices that identification, has had that influence pushed on them. But I will tell you, nearly every straight hetero person I've ever met grew up in a system that told you that boys do this and girls do that. So I can't say that is true, but I cannot say, I know it's not know it to be the truth, that not every child who identifies as non-binary or identifies as a different gender than they were born with, not every child that does that has had that scenario happen to them.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you did.
Yeah. I'm sure there's not everyone, of course. You know what, man?
I will say, let me just sum this up so we don't have to, you and I don't dive completely down this. I will say that I refuse to watch TV news because I feel like it manipulates my brain. And I think most people should not have guns. Like nearly 99% of us should not have guns, and we could debate that for 2 hours. And yet I still respect the hell out of Shawn Hudachko.
And I respect you too. Yeah.
So
we need to do a Shawn and Adam talk politics show, because this will be fun.
No, we do not. I do not think so.
It's a fun show, man. You know what else I love? I love talking with people I consider friends. I have a very, very good friend of mine. He is so Christian, man. This dude's so Christian.
Yeah.
Like his dad, sang, and he's super Christian, man. And I am so atheist. I am the most. If I didn't have to curb my comments on the internet, I would almost be like a militant atheist, where it's like,
sure,
it's such a bad idea. And we can have the most craziest debates, and at the end of the day, it's like, hey man, I love you, bro. I'll talk to you soon. He's like, yeah man, I'll talk to you later. And it's just, you can have differing opinions. That's the thing, man. I fought for so many years in this country and gave up so many years of my life to be able to have your opinion, and me be able to have my opinion, and everybody have their opinions. And we're not going to go to jail. We're not going to get locked up. We're not going to have our hands cut off. We're not going to get whatever. The only repercussions of our opinions are going to be what other people how they may perceive us. Something. If I say something weird, I'm never going to buy a comment from that guy again because he has that opinion. Well, if that's how you view the world, I don't want you to buy comments from me anyway.
That's fair.
We should all be able to get along, man. You got to be able to support people.
One more question I ask everybody.
Let's do it.
And that usually comes right after because usually when I say what is the biggest threat to the direct market, I don't end up with a 20-minute argument. That's a new one. What gives you hope for our industry, for business? What gives you hope for comics?
That I see more and more people stepping outside the box of traditional thinking and willing to take risks. That gives me hope, because I love when I see somebody saying, I'm going to make my own comic. And I'm like, hell yeah. And then my next thing, if you want some advice, let's get on a call and I'll tell you for an hour why you shouldn't do it. And then I'm going to tell you to do it anyway. Like, I want to set you up for it. So that gives me hope. Seeing a seller say, I'm thinking about selling on Whatnot. Hell yeah. Let's do that. Try to sell comics, because now you're an advocate for the industry, right? I love when I hear this guy just opened up another store. You know, Phil opened up his 4 millionth store. Good for you, man. Like, that's awesome. We just expanded.
Yeah.
F yeah. That gives me hope. I love seeing innovation. I love seeing passion. I love seeing growth. I love that. And really, we have to continue to do that as our generation, because we have to continue to inspire the other generations coming up behind us to do the same thing. Like, that would be my second worry about the future of the industry, is what's Gen Z gonna do? I mean,
I've met some of those kids. Coming up. Maybe not all Gen Zs. I mean, I know that there's some younger millennials. I'm actually working on a show featuring some of them right now that are basically our next generation of like publishing and sales executives. I think they're really interesting.
Hold on, Ali Garza just walked in. I'm doing
Ali Garza.
I'm on with Adam Freeman.
What up? Hey, buddy.
I think he's officially.
Hey, I don't know if you remember, but you did a signing at Brave New World in Santa Clarita a bazillion years ago. Anyway, All right, we're wrapping up. Where can people find you? What would you like for them to see when they do that?
Oh man, so honestly, man, follow me on Facebook if you're curious to see some crazy stuff, some fun stuff. I don't post as much as I used to because I'm just busy, and Facebook can be a very, very toxic place to go.
Sure.
But Whatnot channel, Shawn's Comics, Patreon, Shawn's Comics, Tidal Wave Comic Publishing. Talking about thinking outside the box, we have Stormy Daniels is going to be here on August 9th and 10th. So if you want to come to Greenwood, Indiana, and meet Stormy Daniels and have her sign her Space Force comic book,
get your flights now.
It's not about politics at all. It's about her promoting her very fun and ridiculously ridiculous comic book, which is just as fun as it sounds like it is. The writer will be here, the publisher will be here, Darren will be here, Storm will be here, the artist will be here. We'll have Jamie Tyndall, Ali Garza will be here, Matthew White will be here. You know Matthew, you mentioned earlier.
Give my love to Matthew. I love that guy.
Yeah, great dude. Greg Bell Watson will be here. All signing the books. It's going to be a really fun event, and they might still be available on the websites. By the time you watch this, there'll probably be some of the comics available on the website, comicselitecomics.com or tidalwavecomicpublishing.com. The risque ones will be on Comics Elite. The nice ones will be on Tidal Wave Comics. If you like the risque stuff, we do a lot of that stuff too. So,
hi again. Thanks so much for watching Comic Industry Insiders. It, as always, is our pleasure to talk to the movers and shakers of comics and to bring you those conversations. We'd love it if you'd support us with a like and subscribe, and telling your friends is always good, but really what we'd want to do is hear from you. Any questions, any suggestions you have about our show, any suggested guests, frankly, anything at all, we'd love to hear from you. Our producer is nearly always Stephanie Gerk, and our researcher is Anthony Militano, who makes me look much smarter than I am. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Namaste, y'all.